Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode here on the Sunni Defense. Inshallah, today we're going to be talking about Sunni Tawheed and mainly refuting the allegations made by the Bayat Al Ghadeer group. They've had a few episodes, 3 right now. Salamat, bro. You doing good? Today I have with me Hassan Shamrani. Inshallah, 90%, not 100%, 90%. And with inshallah with Abbas as well, also known as a Shia critic. Welcome aboard. So yeah, just to give a quick idea of what we're going to be discussing, inshallah. The boys at Ghadeer, Bayat Al Ghadeer, made a few episodes, a couple on Sifat in general, and one on the topic of Khalq al-Qur'an. And the basic idea that they're trying to get at.
Translate Khalq al-Qur'an in these terminologies for the people.
Okay, so Khalq al-Qur'an is the creation of the Qur'an as opposed to, the Qur'an being uncreated and being specifically the speech of Allah. Now, the interesting thing about the topic is the reason behind this topic, the whole story behind this is they're trying to connect, they're trying to argue that Sunnis are falling into shirk due to their belief, the Sunni belief, that the Quran is, not the Quran, that the speech of Allah is eternal, okay, that it because of course it's an attribute of Allah, and that his other attributes are of course attributes of Allah. And if you believe in attributes of Allah, then you are a mushrik according to the Bayat Al Ghadeer group. And the reason is because if you affirm different attributes to Allah, then you're affirming different essences, and affirming different essences is shirk, basically. So that's the general argument. I guess there are many ways of well, Hassan, you've had some things that you were saying a little while earlier. Would you like to expand on some of that? On the topic itself, the topic of Tawheed. Why are they discussing Sunni Tawheed, ya Hassan?
No, this is, I believe, the most important point that everybody must understand, that I'm going to repeat as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me life. See, brothers and sisters, it's clear, yani, their madhab, especially in the last few decades, internet and then social media, yani their kufriyat and shirkiyat are exposed to in all languages, by the way, in Arabic, even in Iran, in Persian. There's Persian Sunni channels. I worked at one. Mainstream, accepted by their clergy, advocated by them, preached by them. Khurafi, superstitious, kufri, shirki, shocking, to a level where every layman, Sunni, is shocked when he sees this. Yes, every layman with little knowledge. They know that. They know that their madhab doesn't have a good reputation. They know that people don't buy these things anymore. Yeah, we are just doing tawassul. Invoking, praying directly to Fatima in sujood. That's tawassul. Going to the shrines where the scholars say, no, don't say, oh Imam, ask Allah and then ask for your haja, your needs. No, ask the Imam himself. They know people are tired of the excuses, misuse of tawassul and whatnot. Because they know this, they want to turn the tables. This is, I think, very important to understand. They want to turn the tables. They want to turn the tables, but they don't have much. You know why? Baba Farid, Abu Abbas, viewers, think about it. What rituals do Sunnis have? What shirky rituals do we have? In what, for example, I remember I talked to one of them about Asma wa Sifat. He said, you Salafis believe your God is a sky God? طيب, a sky God. Because you affirm al-ulu, yeah, that Allah is the most high. We affirm it as it came to us to the Sunnah and the Quran, so we found it the Zahir. So I said to one of them, let's say, all right, Tayyib. So there's a sky god. Salafis pray to a sky god. Yeah. I said, Tayyib, look, you guys, and it's funny, brother Farid, because Shadi made the comment in the previous video. I don't want to make it too long. He said, oh, these people, if you don't have much knowledge, you talk about Sanad, and you have a website refuting Shiism, but you have never thought about these things.
That was addressed to you?
Huh?
Was that addressed to you, or?
Specifically, I think it was to Hani, but addressed to all of us. You guys know about Sanad, refuting Shiism, all these things. But because these people, these pseudo intellectuals throwing around some terminologies. So because he talks now about, he's now a Kalami, Mutakallim, Jahmi, modern day Jahmi. So, look, I know these things so well. You don't know these things well. And basically, you Salafis, Ahl Sunnah, as you earlier stated, you say that Allah has, of course, one essence, but his attributes are not literally his essence, but not distinct. So if you affirm all those attributes, every single attribute is a God, a'udhu billah, and stuff like that. Brothers and sisters, let's go back to the waqi'ah, to the reality. If Ahlus Sunnah, Salafi, Ash'aris, or any are worshipping idols, the Quran being the idol, or a'udhu billah, or let's say the so-called sky god, how many fingers has the sky god? How many fingers this Shadi asked? We need to ask, well, you know what? We affirm what is in the Sunnah, but how many fingers does your God or gods have? Because you have at the very least 12. Now somebody might say, oh, Hassan Shimrani says they have 12 gods. Brothers and sisters, billahi alaykum, look at the waqi'ah, the reality of every religion and sect. And I'm going to close this now here. If Ahlul Sunnah wa Jama'ah Salafis would pray to an idol, believe in multiple gods, where would it show this? It would be in our minds, right? In our hearts. And then it would what? Show itself
in our rituals.
Ahsan, on our jawarih. Just like Iman starts in the heart, right? Iman starts in the heart, expressed on the tongue, and then you see it on the limbs. So here's the thing. And of course, they can't bring some grave-crawling extremist Sufis or whatnot. They know this, the Shias, even the laymen, they know you can't use this against Sunnis because Sunnis are anti-Orthodox. Sunnis are anti-Khurafa, anti-grave veneration, anti-praying to saints. But look at the waqah of their madhab, Brother Farid, Brother Abu Abbas, viewers. What is the reality of the Shia madhab? Is it anything but the most despicable forms of bid'ah, shirkiyat, kufriyat, dalalat in the name of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam? Isn't that their reality? Isn't it that they don't have Tawheed al-Uluhiyah? Tawheed al-Uluhiyah, where you dedicate all your worship for Allah only, not just believing in Allah only. Isn't it that the scholars say that the Imams are the beautiful names of Allah? A'udhu billah. So call upon the Imams. Isn't it that they say there is no ghulu, there is no extremism with Ahlul Bayt? Say whatever you want. They attribute this to the Ahlul Bayt, except Rububiyyah. That's a qaida they have. This is what the scholars teach them. Say anything you want about Ali. Ali is this. That is why they say Ali is the creator. Like Bassam Karbalai, their singers, their scholars, and others. That's why they say Ali is this and Ali is this, La ilaha illa Zahra, and so on. Why? Because they believe you can say anything about the Imams except they are literally gods. And this is not one or two persons said it. This is not one or two Radud Maddah singer of them, religious singer of them, those who jump around and sing like in a techno hall. There's not one or two of them. It has crossed the boundaries of mainstream. It is now that the average Sunni who little bit is interested in the Shia Sunni issues knows about this khurafat. So that is why, Brother Farid, to answer your question in one line, it is to distract. It is to turn the tables, and to say, actually you do shirk. To give their poor, gullible followers confidence. You understand? Because I remember, I'm doing now da'wah over 10 years, Brother Farid. I have seen myself, I heard myself, read myself comments by Shias when they saw all these kufriyat of Shias on different platforms exposed. like by anti-Majus, may Allah protect them, on Wisal TV, on other channels. I've seen with my own eyes Shias coming and saying, yeah, but that's really problematic, isn't it? I think our scholars, they know. Look, the arrow has been shot. Many of the laymen have shak, doubts. Many of the laymen know something is not wrong. Right.
Hassan, please allow me to
I will.
cut you off there, and I'll kick another question back to you really soon, inshallah.
No, don't worry. And that is why, Farid, that
Yeah.
is why doing what they're doing, to give the laymen who have doubts in their heart an alternative to say, oh, really? Alhamdulillah, I can go back now and invoke the imams, pray, take oaths in the names of the imams, go to the shrines, do all the khurafat superstitions, because Salafis and Ash'aris are doing actually shirk, isn't it? That's the makr of the shayateen. That's the deceitful game of the shayateen, of these
Allah
zanadiqa, heretics.
Akhi, please, if you don't mind, if you got headphones, that would be preferred, because I can hear my echo through your phone, I guess.
Inshallah, yes.
All right. So before anything, before even getting to the issue of it's a lovely display pic, by the way, Hassan.
Yeah, no, rahimahullah.
Before even getting to the topic of khalq al-Qur'an, the creation of the Qur'an, very briefly, inshallah, the first video and second video, they're generally speaking about the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they spent a lot of time quoting narrations about the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the basic argument was, you guys believe in this. We do believe in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attributes, and that these narrations, I'm not saying, well, yes, let me just try to phrase it correctly. We accept all the attributes that are mentioned in the Quran and authentic Sunnah according to the apparent meaning. Now, notice I used the word apparent. I did not use the word literal. And of course, when one uses the term apparent, that can mean that specific sifat mentioned in the Quran and mentioned in the Hadith, according to the apparent meaning, would be metaphorical, and others, according to an apparent meaning, would be understood literally.
No.
Yes. Okay. So I think, mashallah, Abu Abbas has prepared some stuff about Khalq al-Quran. I think it would be interesting to look at that, since you do have all the notes on that. Very briefly, what they did in the first two episodes was that they listed the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the authentic sunnah, and then they said, you believe in this. And then we had people on Twitter commenting, saying, when are you guys going to refute this? Of course, Shias, because Sunnis are not going to say, when are you going to refute this? They said, are you going to comment on this? But Shia said, are you going to refute this? And we would say, why would we even refute this when we agree with it? Of course, not everything that they mentioned, but we do agree with a lot of things that they mentioned about Sifat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, one of them, it was quite embarrassing when Hassan even made the video about this. If you guys, check in the channel videos, you'd find the video of Hassan catching Sayyid Ali, pointing out that Sayyid Ali is quoting a hadith, suggesting it's about tashbih. Tashbih, of course, likening Allah to His creation, and then it blows up in his face when it turns out that the Quran itself has the exact same meaning. So, all right, inshallah, carrying on. The topic of today, I believe it was today or yesterday, they released a new video about Khalq al-Quran, and one of their guests, Shadi, made the Shuf Shadi. I don't mind saying your name. I'm not. All right. I don't feel like I'm making you a star by mentioning your name. You're not gonna get all the publicity in the world. The channel's not gonna go up in flames, and I don't believe that everyone's gonna become a Shi'i because I mentioned your name. All right, so inshallah you can mention mine. Yeah, give me some of that much needed publicity. Hey, Hassan, what's up?
Just one question.
Yeah.
Both question. Somewhere I read where this Shadi this Shadi said that, oh, show us more your beautiful face. He was referring to me, I think. When do you reckon will he show his beautiful face? Do you think he doesn't show his beautiful face because he looks like one of those Abul Fuzl Persian drawn أعوذ بالله أبو الفضل عباس عليه السلام ورضي الله عنه and the Imams of Ahl Bayt, in of these despicable portrays that these Rawafid make of them? But do you think he looks like one of them, or what is the issue that he's not popping out? I mean, they called us cowards. Remember, they called you coward. They say, when is this Farid showing his face? When I did not show my face, where's this Amir Hussein? Remember the Rafida Org people? Oh, he sometimes shows himself. Where's that? Where's the Rafida Org? Where's Shadi? Where are all these people? What do you think, Akhi? Why are they hiding? Shadi in particular.
I got no idea. I don't know. We'll ask him, inshallah. Abu Abbas, please, Akhi, please. We've kept you on hold for too long. Do share your thoughts on what Shadi said. What did he say, first of all? We're curious to know what he said. What were his arguments against Ahl Sunnah in the first place?
All right. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. So basically, in the video, Shadi was the only person who actually provided content. The rest was either a repetition or an extrapolation, based on something he had said earlier in the video. Mm-hmm. And before I actually delve into his arguments, which I have listed over here, I actually wanted to mention how it's a blessing from Allah that the fact that the theological opponents and counterparts of Ahl Sunnah do not ground their arguments from the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Rather, they resort to such cheap arguments such as syllogisms from Aristotelian term logic, based on Aristotelian metaphysics. And this is not what I'm saying. He said it himself in his video, where he was like, this argument is so strong that our whole theology is based on it.
Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. And you realize it's a blessing from Allah that when we talk, when we're basing our theology, we basically rely on the Prophet ﷺ and the Qur'an. And you realize that their claims that, we take Islam from Ahlul Bayt is nonsense. This is a whole video they have that is all based on some principles Aristotle put a few thousand years ago. I mean, I didn't know. Was Aristotle from Ahlul Bayt?
Aristotle, Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Aristotle logic.
Aristotle alayhi salam. Okay, so to go on, I want to give a brief intro to some points he used and some Aristotelian logic over here. So he relies on something called a syllogism. And what a syllogism is, to show the viewers, is it's basically a series of premises or points the person makes that are followed by a conclusion that basically assert his argument. And for a syllogism to be valid, for the conclusion that arises from the syllogism to be valid, the premises have to be valid as well. You cannot, cite fake evidence or a weak premise and then assume your conclusion is valid. To give you an example, a Christian cannot come to a Muslim and tell him, present a syllogism saying, the Bible is a valid document attributed to God. Premise number 2, the Bible states that Jesus is the Son of God. Conclusion, Christianity is right and Jesus is the Son of God. Now, this is a syllogism. However, it's flawed because the premises aren't even, valid. We have not accepted the premises. They're contended. Right. We don't agree that the Bible is a valid document today. And so anything that will stem from that is invalid. So the same thing. When he presents his syllogisms, he needs to ensure that all of the premises are valid before he can justify his conclusion. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't the case for today's case. So he starts with a simple argument, and I'm gonna screen share actually to show.
Awesome.
Syllogism.
I was just about to, but you saved me. You saved me the effort.
Bismillah. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's beautiful.
I'll click. Let me just. Okay.
Yeah,
beautiful.
You can
clear.
Okay, so the first syllogism he presents is premise number 1: only God is eternal. Premise number 2: the Qur'an is eternal. Premise number 3: he says, therefore, according to your theology, Sunnis, the Qur'an is God. Now, obviously, any person, first of all, acquainted with Sunni theology will realize that this is a misrepresentation of our theology. This is a false basis premise. None
Well,
of us
Abbas,
say.
please screen share again.
Oh,
Yeah, leave it for a
what
little
was that,
while.
Farid?
Yeah.
Leave it. Okay. Sorry.
يعني for the audience,
Yeah, sure.
we'd like you to comment while, yeah.
I got you.
Okay.
So,
You know, Abu Abbas, just one quick comment, Abu Abbas. Just for you to know and for the viewers. Just quick comment. He did the same. This miskeen, he thinks intellectual, pseudo-intellectual. He did the same a few years ago with Hani in a debate where Hani wiped the floor with him, where he said they argued about the preservation of the Sunnah. So he said that so you have the Sunnah, so it is preserved by human beings. Human beings make mistakes, so logically it can't be preserved because human beings make mistakes. So that means we need an imam. Salawat, Allahumma salli ala this miskin probably, in the Hawzat al-Hawiya, al-Hawzat of Khurafat, they learn these mantiq here and there, or they learn from some people who came from the Hawzat, or in the college and unis, they take some, these logic lessons and these things. They learn one, two things, and they think, oh, very educated, and we bring you things that are above your head, and this, Allah al-Musta'an. So, look at this logic. I believe that every viewer now listening, and he would just laugh at this. But I'll let you continue. I'll let you continue.
Go on.
The syllogism is a very problematic syllogism, and we cannot accept the conclusion. Why? Because premise number 2, which ascribes this opinion to Ahl Sunnah, is invalid. And I've actually sought some quotes from some of our scholars. I'm going to show over here, inshallah. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes.
Clear.
Beautiful.
Can you see it?
Beautiful. Yes, clearly.
Okay. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. I'm going to highlight the book, Majmu' al-Fatawa, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. He says, وَالسَّلَفُ قَالُوا لَمْ يَزَلِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى مُتَكَلِّمًا إِذَا شَاءَ فَإِذَا قِيلَ كَلَامُ اللَّهِ قَدِيمٌ. No need to read all the Arabic. But what he basically says is...
Don't worry, Akhi. You're allowed to make 50 mistakes in one line. I think
I'll read the Arabic then.
Set very low, Akhi. The bar is set very low. You're allowed to make 50 mistakes. Me too.
He says, وَالسَّلَفُ قَالُوا لَمْ يَزَلِ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى مُتَكَلِّمًا إِذَا شَاءَ فَإِذَا قِيلَ كَلَامُ اللَّهِ قَدِيمٌ بمعنى أنه لم يصر متكلما بعد أن لم يكن متكلما ولا كلامه مخلوق ولا معنى واحد قديم قائم بذاته بل لم يزل متكلما إذا شاء فهذا كلام صحيح. So what Ibn Taymiyyah essentially says is the Salaf, our righteous predecessors rahimahumullah, they used to say that Allah has always eternally had the ability to talk, right? His attribute of being able to talk was eternal. And he had the ability to talk whenever he wanted to. And Ibn Taymiyyah says this is a correct opinion. Yep. And then Ibn Taymiyyah clarifies, and this is where Shadi messed up big time. Ibn Taymiyyah says, وَلَمْ يَقُلْ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ السَّلَفِ إِنَّ نَفْسَ الْكَلَامَ الْمُعَيَّنَ قَدِيمًا وَكَانُوا يَقُولُونَ الْقُرْآنُ كَلَامُ اللَّهِ مُنَزَّلٌ غَيْرُ مَخْلُوقٍ مِنْهُ بَدَأَ وَإِلَيْهِ يَعُودُ ولم يقل أحد منهم إن القرآن قديم ولا قالوا إن كلامه معنى واحد قائم بذاته. So what does Ibn Taymiyyah say? He says none of the Salaf, and this is a pretty big generalization. We're talking about a whole 3 complete generations after the Prophet. He said none of the Salaf claimed that the actual speech, the actual
Quran itself.
Yeah, the actual Quran, the words, none of them said that was eternal. Rather, they used to say that the Quran is the word of Allah, and it is revealed, and it is not created. From Him it started, and to Him it will return. And none of them said that the Quran was eternal. And none of them said that the meaning of the Quran is eternal within the essence of Allah. So, we have a clear example where Brother Shadi totally misrepresents the stance of Ahl Sunnah. I have another quote from Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. from another segment in مجموع الفتاوى, and he says والسبب الثاني أن السلف قالوا القرآن كلام الله منزل غير مخلوق وقالوا لم يزل متكلما إذا شاء فبينوا أن كلام الله قديم أي جنسه قديم أي جنسه قديم. And this is the important point to show. Ibn Taymiyyah says the Salaf also said that the Quran is the speech of Allah, it is revealed and is not created, and Allah has eternally had the ability to speak whenever He wanted. And so they showed that the speech of Allah is eternal, not in its actuality, not in its essence. Rather, it's eternal in the sense that Allah had the ability to speak whenever He wanted. No one, when we say the speech of Allah is eternal, Ibn Taymiyyah, as he pointed out, we don't mean that the actual words are eternal. Rather, Allah's attribute of being able to talk whenever He willed, that is what is eternal. So, Mr. Shadi unfortunately strawmanned the Sunni stance by presenting it as if we believe the Quran is eternal, along with the essence of Allah. So
let me just comment on something.
Sure.
All right. Now let's assume the Quran is eternal. By the way, there's I think, are you using a mic, Akhi? Because I hear my voice echoing off your. Okay.
No,
Okay,
nice.
I'm gonna mute it right now, inshallah.
All right. So, because here's the argument. Here's the argument. His argument is, since the Quran is eternal, then we are worshiping, two eternal separate essences and two eternal separate beings. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't the primary topic of the video, but let me say this: it stems from a false premise he has, which is anything that is eternal is God, and that is not established. His buddy Ibn Sina, who they loved and they quoted throughout the video, and what's his name, that French guy was quoting all the time and praising. Ibn Sina asserted that the universe is eternal. They attacked Hani because he's an Ash'ari, and he said, all of these philosophers refuted the Ash'aris. Well, these philosophers you're appealing to all believed the universe was eternal, just like Aristotle. Do you believe the universe is God?
Minor correction, Hani's not an Ash'ari.
Okay, sorry about that.
Now we're all confused.
But they attributed it to him, right? They said that, he's an Ash'ari.
Yes, they did attribute it to him, yes.
Yeah. So this belief that anything eternal therefore must be God, I don't agree with it. It's a false premise, even though I don't believe the Quran is eternal, right? But still, the claim or the conclusion they're getting to is still invalid.
Yes. Barakallah feek. Hassan, any comments?
Well, there was a smooth fatality. So I would say no. I mean, subhanallah, I talked to brother. We talked in the group with Abu Abbas earlier, and another important point that he didn't mention now, maybe he wants to elaborate on this here, is when he said that these people they're mixing everything up. They talk about the Salafi position, and then they talk about the Ash'ari position, and they attack this position, and then they attack the position that school, for example, doesn't even accept. So it's a mishmash, It's a cocktail, throwing as much as they can shubuhat. Why? Remember, guys, because the madhab, they themselves are drowned in khurafat and shirkiyat. The madhab is a laughing stock when it comes to tawheed. So it's about to turn the table and say, actually, you are mushriks. Well, why are we mushriks? Where's the idol? Where's the Umariya center that we have built? Where's the Sky God center that we have built? You guys have introduced dalalat to an extent that you have introduced a place of worship next to the house of Allah, which is the masjid. They've introduced Husayniyah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam radiallahu anhu, we love him, but we love Umar as well. Have we introduced Umariyah into Islam? Bakriya, places of worship, self-flagellation, wailing for Umar every day? Where do we go and ask Muawiyah for our help and hajat and our needs? Where do we pray to Abu Bakr and Umar, make tawassul to them, crawl to their graves? lick their graves, kiss their graves. Where do we say ask anything from the Sahaba? Whatever you want. Allah gave them the power. Allah gave them wilayatu takwiniyah. Where did we took away their tawheedul uluhiyah and gave that all to the imams? Where? Where does the average Salafi layman or the average Ash'ari layman in his thoughts, in his mind, in his ritual, in his daily life, on the way to the mosque, back from the mosque, inside the mosque, where does he do weird rituals, praying directly to other than Allah, taking oaths in the name of other than Allah, at their places of khurafat, cesspools of shirk and kufriyat in Karbala and in Najaf and in Qom and in Mashhad, where they slaughter for other than Allah. Don't lie to people. I have been there, I've seen it, I've sat with you scholars. All of these things are sanctified by them. And worse, where do we have this, brothers and sisters? Mark my words. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah are not just Ahlul Tawheed because we call ourselves Ahlul Tawheed, Ahlul Tawheed, Muwahhidun, monotheists. Practically, amalan, when you go to a Sunni mosque, you smell Tawheed. From the bukhur to the ibadah to the topics they talk about. Every khutbah starts with warnings against bid'ah, warnings against shirk, following the sunnah, praying to Allah alone. When you pray, pray to Allah alone. When you take it off in the name of Allah alone. When you slaughter for Allah alone. Every form of worship for Allah alone. Love Ahlul Bayt, love Sahaba, only Ma'soom, Anbiya. This is Tawheed. They don't have this. Can you even imagine one of these clowns, the Crep one or Belgium, that one clown, or the other one, that Shadi one? Can you imagine one of them standing on the minbar saying, Inna alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh, and so on and so forth, warning people against bid'ah and calling to tawheed. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine Yasir al-Habib standing on the minbar saying, Ya ibadallah, worship Allah alone. Don't make shirk. Pray to him alone directly. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine one of the ayatullahs talking like that? Can you imagine Sistani? Of course not. You can't imagine that. Not even one of them. And you will never see that because they are not Ahlul Tawheed. That is why they have to do buhtan, straw men, and do all these trickeries to misrepresent the Sunni position. At best, what? Who? I mean, brothers, Farid, Abu Abbas, well, this question to you too. All this kalam, Haji Fadi, which goes above the head of people, it has nothing to do with their daily life. Who will they convince anyway? Is it anyone but their staunch followers? Who will buy anything from these people? Who? I mean, seriously, who will understand? Oh, I'm not saying that they are very intelligent. I mean, they talk about issues like the Dhat of Allah, Sifat of Allah, issues that are not relevant to your daily rituals. There is no Ash'ari brother and sister or Salafi brother and sister who believes that, oh, wait a second, Allah has one essence, but his attributes are not literally his essence, but also not distinct. Oh, I'm worshipping other than Allah, like my Rafida neighbors who, Ya Ali, Ya Abul Fadl, or Fatima, help me in sujood and celebrating Nowruz, and on Nowruz Adam was created, and all other khurafat. Where do we have this? We don't have this. That's the reality. These are facts. These are facts.
I'd like to comment on that. That seems to be where this discussion, not this specific discussion, but this overall discussion is heading to. The argument that since Ahl Sunnah affirm attributes, then we're worshipping multiple gods. Not only that's not the scary part. The scary part is when they're saying that, we're affirming that Allah has knowledge, and that is separate from his essence, and Allah cannot have knowledge. Allah is alim without ilm, stuff like that. I don't even know what to make of that.
Let me give you one quick example, Brother Farid and Abu Abbas and viewers, because I read a great deal about Christianity, not just from Muslim books about refuting Christianity, but I wanted to understand them myself. So I read a book about theology. I read a book about from a Catholic American Yugoslavian professor who wrote in defense of the Trinity. He calls the Trinity the superior Tawheed. SubhanAllah. He even used words like Tawheed. He says Unitarian Tawheed is, it's like secondhand, and the Trinitarian one is the upgraded one. Anyway. So when I read this book, this Catholic person claims Tawheed. Why? Because he says we are not mushrikeen. We, at the end of the day, we Catholics, all Christians, we affirm one Dhat, one essence for Allah. Once you affirm one Dhat, that's it, then it's all right. So here's the thing. For example, to us Muslims, is this Tawheed what they have? They affirm one Dhat, as one Jewish rabbi said, they do with their tongues affirm one Dhat. Then they say that God is free persona, which is just an excuse for their paganism. For their paganism. Is there paganism? Did paganism evolve from that? La shakka wa la raib. I mean, even non-Catholics, for example, that's the most hilarious thing. I've seen Catholics, non-Catholics, especially these evangelistic groups, even disagreeing with Shias, saying you remind us of Catholics with your saint worship and with your iconography, pictures, veneration, when they saw in a documentary, when they saw Karbala and Najaf, what is going on there. So look, amalan, those false, fake muwahidun, so-called monotheists, because that's what they claim, the Catholics. Amalan, they are drowned in shirk. They claim God has one essence with three persona, and then you see the sanams, asnam, in their places of worship, praying directly to Mary, praying directly to Jesus, to Saint Augustine, Saint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, endless saints.
Hassan, excuse me.
Same with the extremists among the Shia, like the Imamiyah. They accuse us of, oh, you have shirky beliefs, but amalan, we have no shirky rituals. Because if this statement would be true, it would show itself on our jawarih. There is no picture veneration, no human veneration, no worship devoted to any other than Allah. So this claim is belied. This claim is falsified by the very thaqafah, culture of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, which is the culture of Tawheed. Whereas the culture of the Rafida is the culture of Shirk, Khurafat, and Dalala. May Allah guide them, especially the layman.
Ameen. Carrying on with that point, inshallah, very briefly, affirming attributes to Allah does not mean affirming separate essences. And of course, this is the basic argument that they make. If Allah has different attributes, then Allah is multiple. If Allah has a hand, then that would make Allah two. If Allah has two hands, then we have Allah and two hands. So those are three. You're worshiping three gods. If Allah has a face, then Allah has two hands and a face, and Allah, that's four. And of course, this is very problematic, because if you hold that opinion, then there is no such thing as one in existence, because everything.
Careful, Brother Farid. He answered Hani. Remember,
Yes.
He said, Hani, no, there's a difference between saying Allah has a power or Allah has power. Allah is powerful. So basically, when you say Allah is powerful, that's all right. That's what the Rafida say as well. When you say Allah has a power, yeah, careful. That means, so never say the next time, hey, my friend, he's got like really strength, power, because that means John is John, and he strength, and he has a separate power with him. Maskhara, wallah.
So Hassan was commenting on the issue of Shadi affirming that Allah is powerful, but will not affirm that Allah has power. Because if you, ya Muslim, affirm that Allah has power, then that power needs to be eternal. And if that power is eternal, then you're worshipping two gods or something. I think, if the Shias, on that show speak more about this, it's going to drive a lot of people away. They're doing, of course, criticizing us is of course a smokescreen for what they believe in. I wish they would speak more about that. Abu al-Abbas, we need to get back to you. You have some more syllogisms that you'd like to go through.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm actually going through every single one, inshallah.
All right, go on.
So
We'll try to not cut you off.
Inshallah. La, you're good. You guys are all good. Bismillah. So, okay, I also wanted to mention another point before I address the second syllogism presented. It's also a blessing from Allah. So I first said it's a blessing from Allah that some of their main arguments in their theology are all based on Greek logic and philosophy and not stemmed from the Qur'an and the Sunnah, right? I also wanted to mention, and I forgot, it's a blessing from Allah that these issues they're bringing up against our madhab are issues the Prophet ﷺ never addressed, the Sahaba never addressed, the Salaf never addressed. Even the Shia Sheikh they brought on the camera admitted their Imams didn't even address. So, or they very lightly addressed because the issue was insignificant. So this is an irrelevant matter. Even the Prophet ﷺ, nor the Imams, nor the Sahaba. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says not even the four madahib, Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad. Ibn Taymiyyah says the first person to actually address this issue was Ibn Kullab, who died in the middle of the 3rd century.
You mean the Kalbis? Or
yeah, they totally mispronounced.
Al-Qalbiyya, I think he said Al-Qalbiyya.
Al-Qalbiyya.
Qalbiyya, mashallah. Yeah, so that was the first person to actually address this issue in an Islamic context. And then, subhanAllah, now they make it this huge theological debate that their Imams never even addressed. But nevertheless, we can move on to the second syllogism, inshallah ta'ala. I'm gonna share my screen right now, and let's see if you guys can see the second syllogism. Can you see it?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, bismillah. Second syllogism. Okay, so it's pretty clear that Shadi has very little understanding of Aristotelian term logic, or mantiq, as we call it in Arabic, because what he does is a very silly trick that shows he has very little knowledge in the field. What he does is he essentially takes the conclusion of the first premise, he takes a premise from his earlier syllogism, which is that the Qur'an is eternal, which we have shown is an invalid premise that goes against the madhab of Ahl Sunnah. And he plugs it into the second syllogism, where he says, second syllogism, premise number 1, the words of Allah are his eternal speech. Premise number 2, Jesus is the word of Allah, and he appeals to an ayah, where Isa alayhi salam is called Kalimatullah. And then the third conclusion that follows is, Jesus is the eternal word of Allah. What does that mean? That means you Sunnis must believe that Jesus is God now. And he's so happy about his point that he plays some music, church music, and he puts a picture of a church in the background. And subhanAllah,
I just like to comment that actually happens in the video. Abu al-Abbas is not making that up.
Yeah, he's really excited. He's very happy about his points, and subhanAllah, I feel bad bursting his bubble, but we're gonna have to do what we have to do. Premise number 1 is invalid. We have shown that it's not according to our madhab Ahl Sunnah. They're refuting something totally different than what we are. I don't know what madhab they're talking about, but it's not Ahl Sunnah. Point number 1. Premise number 2 is also a misinterpreted premise. Why? Because they're taking the ayah where Allah calls Isa Kalimatullah, and they're basically misunderstanding it and then using it in their premise. Let's go to our tafsir.
About the first point. So what you're saying is that the words of Allah here, what's meant by this are actual kalimat and not sifat al-kalam. Am I correct?
Yes, they're mischaracterizing our madhab by saying that the actual words that Allah said are eternal. We never believed that. Rather, our belief is that Allah's ability to talk is eternal.
Great.
This has been refuted, inshallah. So, premise number 2, they say, but you also have an ayah that says Jesus is the kalima of Allah. So, you're like the Christians now. And subhanAllah, he totally misunderstood the ayah. The whole premise is a misinterpretation of the ayah. And I have Tafsir ibn Kathir behind me, but I'm going to just show it on the screen. Does it show up?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, this is from Tafsir ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir says, وَلِهَذَا قِيلَ لِعِيسَى إنه كلمة الله وروح منه لأنه لم يكن له أب تولد منه وإنما هو ناشئ عن الكلمة التي قال له بها كن فكان. What does that mean? Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, who is as Sunni as you can get, what he is essentially saying is the reason Isa alayhi salam was called Kalimatullah was because he was the product of the kalima of Allah, which was kun. He did not have a father, so he was basically created when Allah told him kun, be, come into existence, and he existed. And that is what Allah meant by calling him kalimatullah. And this is evident in another ayah where Allah says regarding Isa, وَكَلِمَتُهُ أَلْقَاهَا إِلَى مَرْيَمَ. And he used the word of Allah, Allah had betrothed to Maryam alayhi salam.
But Abbas, if you could possibly zoom in, that would be
okay. Inshallah, I am gonna zoom in.
all right.
Let me highlight it. It's here. I highlighted it. Can you see it?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's for those back at home.
All right. So it's pretty clear that he also misunderstood the ayah, and then he takes his misunderstanding of the ayah and expects us, to basically hold ourselves to his understanding and accept his premise. However, unfortunately, his second syllogism is also invalid. Jesus is not the eternal word of Allah. Jesus is not God, even according to the Qur'an. They appeal to John of Damascus, who was an enemy of Allah, by the way. He was a Christian philosopher in Syria who wrote some of the first refutations of Islam. They appeal to him and they say he has the same understanding. And subhanAllah, the reason they have the same understanding is because they both drink from the same cup of shirk.
Allahu Akbar.
It's a totally invalid. First premise is invalid. Second premise is invalid. So the third conclusion obviously is invalid. So I think he should play some sad Beethoven music instead of the church music in the background. Okay, I can move on to the third syllogism. You guys have something to say.
Raising someone in his face is not good in Islam, but I can't. But akhi, that was really flawless victory, fatality, and everything. And I want to say something for people who don't know. The brother who was just talking is more than 10 years younger than me, a decade younger than me. But you know what? It's not that he's very special or that we are made of another jinns. We are humans, they are humans. But this is the upbringing of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. People who are busy learning the Qur'an, memorizing the Qur'an, learning Tajweed, learning Arabic. This is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and this is their people. Have you seen? Well, we're going to talk about the other one. Have you any all your translation of Quran is crap. They brought that guy who calls Ali, Imam Ali, So what shall I say, brothers and sisters? This is not to show off. I'm not talking about myself. I'm praising this brother and his likes. And may Allah reward you, akhi. That was beautiful, akhi. MashaAllah. But we are not finished.
Please go on, Abu Abbas.
We're not finished.
More to come. Tafadhal, Abu Abbas.
All right, inshallah. We'll go on to the third syllogism he presents. Inshallah, I'm going to share my screen. Bismillah. Okay, the third syllogism. Okay, he presents another argument. I feel bad for him, and they're running out of arguments. So let's look at the third syllogism. Premise number one: the attributes of Allah are not the same as Allah's essence. Premise number two: anything which is not the same as Allah's essence is separate from Allah's essence. Conclusion: the attributes of Allah are separate from Allah's essence. And when he actually, this is like one of the most important arguments he can present, by the way. This is the actual argument the Mu'tazili, the Ibadi, and the Shia theology in this aspect relies on. And in the best opportunity to present evidence, what does he say? He says, oh, it's common sense. I'm sorry, my friend, but you cannot appeal to common sense. That's a logical fallacy. You need to actually make your case. He doesn't. So the first premise, he does not provide any evidence to show why it is valid. It's a contested premise. This is a premise we Ahl Sunnah have been refuting for 1,000 years. So you cannot just simply throw it at us and expect us to take it. It's incorrect. And so he moves on to say, anything which is not the same as Allah's essence is separate from Allah's essence. And what he does over here is he plays a smart game, but it's not very smart. He takes advantage of the ambiguity that is entailed by the term essence, right? When you say the essence of Allah, what does he actually mean? Like, if you're gonna ask him, Farid, what do you like? If I ask him, what can you please define what the essence of Allah means? You know, he's using Greek logic, and in mantiq we have a term called al-hadd al-haqiqi, which is the boundary or the definition that will give you the absolute meaning of the word. So, Farid, if I'm gonna ask him, you know, what do you actually mean by the essence of Allah, since you're using it to make a conclusion? What do
Well,
you think
he would use the word that, but I don't know how he would. I mean, I guess he just used the word that to say, you know, the essence is that, and it's Allah basically.
Well, here's the thing. Our debate revolves around the definition of this term, partially, and he takes advantage of the ambiguity that results from the term. So before we can even accept his syllogism, I'm going to ask him to first define what he means by the essence of Allah. Because, ya akhi, to be honest, as I said earlier, this is a matter the Prophet ﷺ didn't talk about, the Sahaba never addressed, the 12 Imams barely addressed. You know, the early scholars, the former Madhahib didn't address. These are very complicated, minute issues. And so when we're talking about the essence of Allah, we cannot just throw the term around and make silly arguments like this fellow over here. We have to be sure before we can make, you know, such claims. So I'm not going to even accept anything in this premise until he can first define what he means by the term essence. That's point number one. Point number two is that he basically makes fun of us. You know, they make fun of us, calling us mujassima. You worship an idol because, you know, you affirm the attributes of Allah and the qualities that belong to Allah. However, let's look at the bigger picture over here. What is he actually trying to say? What he's telling us is that the essence of Allah is eternal, right? Allah's existence is eternal. However, his attributes, what do you mean by his attributes? We're talking about Allah's ability to see, Allah's ability to talk, Allah's ability to, create, Allah's ability itself, Allah's life, Allah's knowledge. He's trying to separate that from the essence of Allah. So what does it mean? It means that his God is a statue that cannot talk in his essence. He cannot see, he cannot speak, you know, he cannot create. Yani, it's like an idol that's just standing there doing nothing.
Hassan, it seems like you're trying to say something. Unmute your mic. Your mic's muted. Hassan, unmute your mic. Okay. Okay.
Just wanted to ask something or add to for brother Abu Abbas. Is it correct, Akhi Abu Abbas said this is why maybe you should explain the term Jahmiya, that the modern day Rafida are really in their theology, no matter if they deny, of course they deny that they are Mu'tazila, they attribute themselves, A'udhu billah, we seek refuge in Allah, aslan from this qawl, that they are followers of Ahlul Bayt, A'udhu billah. But in reality, the haqiqah is that these people are followers of Jahm and Safwan and the Mu'tazila, because isn't it that what they believe in reality is a God that is adim, non-existent, isn't it? A God that doesn't speak, a God that doesn't have all these attributes. Maybe you can elaborate more and explain this. Isn't it because of their so-called fear of comparing Allah to the creation, they have went into the extreme of denying the attributes of Allah. Some all attributes, some of them a number of attributes, some of them those attributes that they think is physical and so on and so forth. Isn't it that in reality all of these people have committed the one crime to deny for Allah what Allah himself deemed for himself correct?
Yeah, actually we have a saying in our aqidah, al-mujassimu ya'budu sanaman wal-mu'attilu ya'budu adama.
I know.
So the anthropomorphist, a person who likens Allah to his creation, which is a sect that existed at a certain time and has nothing to do with Ahl Sunnah, by the way. A person who is an anthropomorphist is worshipping a statue. He's worshipping, you know, something like the creation of Allah. And al-mu'attil is someone who negates the attributes of Allah. This person is worshipping nothing. Why? Because what do they resort to? They end up to saying stuff like, Allah does not exist in the world, He does not exist out of the world. Allah has no boundaries. Allah exists. They negate His attributes. They negate Allah's sight. They negate Allah's life. They negate Allah's knowledge as an attribute. In reality, you're worshiping a block that exists somewhere in an abstract world.
It's a roadway to atheism, ilhad. Yeah.
Yeah, subhanallah, and they're just like their predecessors, and you find atheism is actually really high amongst their youth, and I see it all the time.
I'm from Iran, akhi. This is Allah al-Musta'an. But I want one question, maybe to both of you guys, maybe to you, whoever wants to answer. I remember this Shadi guy said that in his clip, addressing Hani, I think. He said, but who said that Allah, you guys said, it is your mind, you read into it. Who said that Allah attributed yet to himself? Hand. Who said that Allah attributed this? This is what you say. So basically he wants to say that, we with our shallow understanding, we speak for Allah. We say, oh yeah, Allah has attributed. Whereas Allah nowhere attributed these things to himself. Of course, I think one Qur'an verse is enough to make clear that no, Allah does not just speak, for example, about some things that you can use, understand in a context of a metaphor or something. It's verses that, according to Arabic language, Arabs never have used as a metaphor. But anyway, I'll let you guys answer that. What is it that we superimpose it on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We are literalists, anthropomorphism and whatnot, and we got it all wrong? Or why is it that we say, well, Allah has a yet, Allah affirmed hand for himself. We say he has a hand, bila kayf, without how?
Well, the thing is, to address that, we need to know that Allah revealed the Qur'an in the Arabic language, right? And if we want to understand what Allah actually meant, we have to have a thorough understanding of the Arabic language. And it is agreed upon in Arabic that when something is said, the literal meaning is usually affirmed unless there's a qarina or an indicator to show that the speaker is being metaphorical. Right? So we need a valid indicator in the text or somewhere from the Sunnah or from another ayah in the Qur'an that shows that the speaker is being metaphorical in this case. Otherwise, in the Arabic language, we are to assume that the literal meaning is the one being mentioned. And unfortunately, Greek logic is not a proper qarina we can use in understanding the Qur'an. It has a lot of flaws. A lot of its premises, especially in the metaphysics and some points Aristotle brings up, they're all not even agreed upon. So we cannot cite those as indicators to show that this ayah will lead to a problematic understanding, and therefore we have to consider it metaphorical. No, when idafa is made in Arabic, so when Allah says Yadullah, this is an idafa. Allah is attributing the hand to him.
If you translate idafa so everybody understands.
Idafa is basically literally means when you add something. So when you say Baytullah, right, it's the house of Allah. And this is not my words. I actually read it in Tasih I'tiqadat al-Imamiyya by Sheikh al-Mufid, their loved one, who was talking about Baytullah. And he mentioned this point actually. That's where I first heard this argument. So nevertheless, unless there's a valid qarina from the speaker to show that he's being metaphorical, we are only to take it literally. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that, we say Allah has a hand like our hand. No, we say Allah has a hand that suits him, Jalla Jalaluh, right?
I have to stop you. Because this Shadi guy, and those among them who think they're a bit advanced on the topic, they say, be careful. When you ask the Salafis, so Allah has a hand? Yes. But without how? Without a how, will the Muslim Sunni will answer without a how, without kayf, according to his majesty. And so the Shadi, not just in the previous session, even the ones before, he argued then that, that resembles Christianity. Who is it that when you ask them, Tayyib, how can Allah be free, or even if he's one, but he has free personal, how? Belief. Mystery, Trinity. So what did he? Is a very deceitful way of telling yani, conveying to the viewers, to the listeners of his, that, oh, look, they, Ahlul Sunnah, all of them, because as you know, brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, most of you have understood, they are the enemies of Ahlul Sunnah qatiban, all Ahlul Sunnah. Doesn't matter where your school of thought comes from. So he said, this is similar to Christianity. We don't know, we have to believe. But here's the thing, akhi. Subhanallah. If this person who thinks he's very intellectual, if he would have understood that the sifat, the attributes of Allah, that are not literally his essence, but of course not distinct from his essence. If I were to ask you, Farid, or you ask you, Abu Abbas, or your viewers, what is the essence of Allah? Is there an answer to it? Yes or no?
No, we cannot define it.
We can't. So we can't answer what is the essence of Allah. Nobody in the world can. Is that correct? Nobody.
Yeah,
even a Shia would agree, of course, and say we don't know. Ultimately, nobody knows the essence of God. So, ya miskeen, if we don't know the essence of God, right? If we don't know the essence of God, and the sifat, the attributes of God are not distinct from his essence, how can I as a Muslim tell you what his hand exactly is? Yani, his question itself is false. You understand? Just like it is the similarities with the one who asked the question, can Allah create a stone that is so heavy that he can't lift it himself? There is no answer to this question. Why? Because there is we can't answer, we're incapable. No, the very premises is wrong. So the premises of this pseudo-intellectual guy is wrong. Because whenever they ask you and learn this, Ya ayyuha sunni and ayyuha sunniya, all you muwahhid, all you monotheists, learn this. Whenever these neo-Jahmiyyah, these sifat deniers and rejectors ask you, what do you mean Allah has a hand not like our hand? So he has in the hand and one hand. What hand? You say to him, what do you mean, what hand? What is, okay, Tayyib, I turn the table. What is Allah's essence? You, Rafida, also believe that Allah has an essence. You should believe Allah has an essence. What is the essence? Tell me of the essence. Give me details about the essence. Of course he can't, because it's the essence of Allah. It's from the ghaib. Same with the sifat. The zahir is known, the ma'na is known, but the haqiqah, the kayfiyah, to say it more correctly, is unknown. So we can say, we turn the table on them, we say, just as we can't, and nobody in the world, no sect in the world can claim to know the essence of Allah, nobody can give you the answer what hand exactly in reality means. This is not running away, and this is not Christian belief. This is not blind following. This is being humble. This is knowing oneself's limit. This is not falling into what the heretics fell into, like the Jahmiyyah and the offsprings, the Mu'tazila and the Rafida and all false sects who fall in this very mistake, worshipping their own brain and their own logic. And this is not a strawman, by the way, where they think Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah Salafis are against logic, against metaphors. You have heard it, brothers and sisters. Brother Abu Abbas gave an example. The scholars of Ahlul Sunnah, that's why this roadrunner, when he was in Hyde Park discussing with this one brother, saying, yeah, but metaphor, you guys don't accept metaphor? He's masakin. Oh, who are you talking about metaphor? You don't even know Arabic language. You want to talk about majaz, about metaphors? The scholars don't deny metaphors. The scholars don't deny majaz. But it has its place. And you can't come and deny anything you don't like from the attributes of Allah under the pretext of, this is a metaphor. No.
Well, I would just want to comment very briefly. Habibi Abu Abbas. Then, you just said that rant by Hassan, Habibi Hassan, was based on you saying that Allah has a hand unlike other hands. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, and this is based on, this is a quote, I'm going to quote Kitab al-Hikayat, which is just a risala from Mu'jam Musannafat al-Mufid, in which he quotes, or where he comments about Hisham bil-Hakam. Okay, so they always deny, they always say, you guys are attacking Hisham bil-Hakam, accusing him of...
Viewers, who is Hisham bil-Hakam?
Is one of the closest companions of Imam Musa al-Kadhim. He's one of the first...
Wait a second. Are you telling me that the most layman gullible souls who think that they take the deen from, these holy with plucked eyebrow looking Persian Ahl Bayt on the wall in the Husayniyah. We took our deen from them and you took it from evil Abu Huraira. So you're telling me it's not that simple. They claim to take their deen from Ahl Bayt, but they were obviously narrators in between the Imams. And one of them, one of them has the name Hisham ibn al-Hakam.
So
who
Hisham,
was this dude?
in the same way that we take our narrations from the companions of Rasulullah, they take their narrations from the companions of the Imams, and they take their.
But I guess that, sorry to interrupt you again. Are their companions of the Imams infallible?
Of course not. In the same way that the companions of Rasulullah are not infallible, the companions of their Imams are not infallible. The only difference is that their Imams, some of their companions of Imams have had heretical views according to modern Shias. Okay. And one of them is Hisham bin Hakam, Yunus bin Abd al-Rahman, and Zurara. They're known as, three of the mutakallimin from Ashab al-A'imma. They themselves had sects attributed to them. So if you look in the books of sects, you'll find a sect called al-Hishamiyya, one called al-Yunusiyya, and one called al-Zurariyya. So Hisham bin Hakam was known for a view which, again, this is not, Ahl Sunnah just accusing Hisham of this. This is affirmed by Shaykh al-Mufid. Shaykh al-Mufid says, all right, when of course Mu'tazila attacked early Shias for believing in tashbih, all right, tashbih, likening Allah to His creation.
And the Mu'tazila were the opposite, isn't it? They denied all.
Exactly. Of course, today Shi'i creed is very similar to Mu'tazili creed. However, the earliest Shias, some of them were mujassima in the sense that they affirmed, not only affirmed attributes.
No, they said it's lawazim, it's necessary.
Sure, and they went even further than that. But here is what Al-Mufid quotes from Hisham bin Hakam. He says that Hisham bin Hakam and his companions, a group from the companions of Abi Abdullah alayhi salam, they used to speak of al-jism. They speak of the body, all right, the body of Allah, all right, saying, okay, that Allah is a body unlike other bodies. Now, who is this that's saying this? This is Hisham bin Hakam, one of the closest companions to Imam Musa al-Kadhim. Okay, and now if a Salafi was to say this today, they'd accuse him of shirk. Now, this statement, I would not accuse Hisham bin Hakam of shirk for saying this. The most one could say is the term jism is a term that's not used by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was not used by the Imams themselves. If one was coming from a Shia background, and it's incorrect to use such a term. However, but to accuse someone of shirk for saying something like this is going overboard. Now, what's interesting is, Al-Mufid goes on to say, it is said that he changed his opinion about this. However, this is not correct. And all that is correct is what I have said, meaning that Hisham bin Hakam did hold this belief. So that's what it's for.
Let me get this right. So let's say a Shia apologist now says, because I did have these discussions in several languages and they do say this. So they come and say, yeah, well, but Hisham did Tawbah, Tayyib, okay, he didn't do Tawbah, Hisham, but we don't believe in it. We don't follow, he's not infallible, we don't follow his mistake. Yeah, but here's the thing. You take your religion from him. You take your religion from him. And what is amana? If I give somebody a key and say, take care of my key, I will give it to someone that I trust, even if he has not the same beliefs as me. That's why Ahl Sunnah is just, isn't it? They do narrate from Khawarij, even from Rawafid, some, but mostly from Shia, from Nawasib, with certain conditions. But it is us that get blamed for that. Whereas then these people we find out, and we haven't even dig deep into this issue, that they have taken the deen from a bunch of, as I have to repeat, we haven't even started There's not going to be in this session. From alcoholics, nawasib, people who used to steal, and now people who used to not just believe that Allah is physical, but that it is one of the lawazim. It is a necessity for godhood, for a God to be a jism, to be a body. Now, if they say, yeah, but Ibn Taymiyyah said similar thing. You take your deen from Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah? I take my deen from Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah is from the Khalaf, rahimahullah. Ibn Taymiyyah is from the Khalaf, not even from the Salaf. Akhi, is Ibn Hisham the Salaf or the Khalaf?
Hisham bil Hakam is a major hadith narrator. He has a musnad. It's not, of course, he didn't collect it. But if you go to Shia bookstores, exactly, if you go to a Shia bookstore, you can actually pick up Musnad Hisham bil Hakam, in which all of his narrations from the Imam directly are collected into one book.
Of course. So he is their Salaf. And we quoted, was it in the previous session? Was it Al-Murtada? It was Al-Murtada, yeah? Who said that all the people of Qom...
Yes, Al-Murtada, yes. Sharif al-Murtada said that all of the people of Qum, except for Ibn Babawayh al-Saduq,
Ibn Babawayh al-Qummi, Ibn Babawayh al-Babawayh al-Qummi al-Saduq, everybody in Qum whom the Shia took their deen from, not every single person, every baker, but there were definitely narrators there, right?
Yes.
Was just him except one. And the funny thing is, maybe we can put the quotes under the video later. Al-Murtada makes it clear, the only one. And then he says, Jami'a, all of them of Qum. Because you have to understand, people. You know, when we always say, especially I myself, that Iran was Sunni 500 years ago, majority of Iranians. Yes, majority of Persia was Sunni, right up to 500 years ago. But not all of Persia. Qom was a stronghold of Rafidism from early times. And when my great fathers were Shafi'is, Hanafis, Ahlul Sunnah, despised the Rafidah. Most of Iran, Persia, was Sunni from Nishabur to Isfahan to Shiraz, Tehran, which used to be called Ray, Qazvin. At that time, Qom was already Rafidi. In extreme, in books of history, you can read that Qummis were extreme people in everything they did. And you see in their beliefs about Allah, in their la'an, and their takfir of Sahaba, and so on. So anyway, I think most things we have answered. Is there anything?
Abu Abbas, we so rudely interrupted him. MashaAllah, he's been patiently.
You're good, man.
You're a patient guy, man. And you know, just.
I'm enjoying it, bro. I'm enjoying it all.
Please carry on.
There was.
So be careful not to say anything that we could comment on.
Okay, inshallah.
Be careful.
All right. So what's his name? Theory, or the French gentleman that was on the show.
Belgium. He's from Belgium.
Sorry. The Belgian gentleman that was on the show. He was basically saying, "Oh, I think it's lazy that these Sunnis don't have philosophy, in their theology." And wallahi, I doubt this guy would understand the sentence Ibn Taymiyyah said. I have Ta'arud al-Aql wal-Naql here by Ibn Taymiyyah. It's behind me in my library. Wallahi, I would doubt he'd understand the introduction Ibn Taymiyyah gave to his book, just because it's very sophisticated and filled with complex philosophical terms and concepts, very abstract. However, the difference is we don't base our main theology on Greek logic. We merely indulge in it to address your crappy theology. So he says, they're hypocritical, and they say it's haram once, and then you find them talking about it. We're doing it because we're refuting your claims with your own premises. You can't even prove your theology using your Greek logic. So that's one point. Before I was going to go on to the fourth syllogism he presented, which was the last, if I'm not mistaken.
Please do.
Okay, Bismillah. Let me screen share. Bismillah. All right. This is the worst one out of them all. This is what I call a syllogism salad. So, fourth syllogism, premise number one: only divine essences are eternal. Premise number two: the attributes of Allah are eternal. Premise number 3. The attributes of Allah are separate from Allah's existence. Conclusion. The attributes of Allah are divine, separate, multiple, eternal essences. So, yani, just looking at this, you realize it's a mess. First of all, he takes the conclusion from the past premise, which is the attributes of Allah. Sorry about that. The attributes of Allah are separate from Allah's essence. That's a conclusion that is contested. We mentioned earlier we cannot accept this conclusion unless valid evidence is presented. It's not a valid syllogism. He takes the conclusion, which is invalid, and uses it as a premise in his fourth syllogism. And he's so smart, and he's making challenges, left and right, and it's big talk. But when you look at it, it's like, this is a mess.
Would you mind explaining the term separate? I think the term could be a bit confusing to some people.
Okay, fair enough. So we Ahl Sunnah, we believe that Allah Azza wa Jal is eternal, right? He does not have a beginning, he does not have an end, and nothing is like him in existence. With that being said, we also believe that Allah Azza wa Jal has attributes that are intertwined with his essence. And what do we mean by that? To give you an example, we believe that Allah was able to hear, throughout eternity. Allah had the ability to talk throughout eternity. Allah had the ability to create throughout eternity in his essence. Even before he created, the universe, he was still the creator. We believe that Allah, all of these attributes, Allah has knowledge. We believe that Allah's knowledge, for example, is intertwined with his essence. So Allah always knew everything, right? We don't say, oh, at a certain point Allah became knowledgeable or he created his own knowledge. No, we believe Allah has eternal knowledge. And so Shadi thinks he's smart. And what he does later is, he's like, oh, you cannot say Allah has knowledge. His knowledge is like, it's not in his essence. It's not like a database. I don't know what he's talking about, to be honest. But if we're going to adopt his stance, the conclusion is basically Allah has an essence that is eternal, and we cannot say that Allah has knowledge that was eternal as well. Why? Because according to his logic, that means that we're worshiping multiple gods. This is nonsense. It is baseless. And in mantiq, we actually have a term. Mantiq is Aristotelian term logic, by the way, in English, if you translate it. In mantiq, we have a term called as-sifat al-lazima. Sifat lazima basically are attributes that are necessary or always present in an essence that is described. And from these sifat, we have sifat dhatiyya, which are certain attributes, if non-existent, we can never imagine or picture or understand the existence of the essence being described. So if we say Allah existed, but he doesn't have life, and he doesn't have sight, and he doesn't have knowledge, you're negating your Allah in reality, because you are negating his sifat al-dhatiyya, his essential attributes. These are called essential attributes. Okay? So he tries to distinguish between them using false premises, as I showed. The syllogism is problematic in so many ways, and I'm really interested to see how he's gonna justify this one.
The issue is that the term knowledge and the attribution of knowledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is found in the Qur'an in several verses, and the same applies to other sifat that these guys are rejecting, and that's why you will find some of them saying things like, if you follow the Qur'an in its apparent meaning, you could fall under these, you could fall into these conclusions. Subhanallah. And remember, this was said a while ago by Azza in one of his videos.
Because the Qur'an opposes the belief when it comes to some obvious mistakes of the Anbiya, which doesn't negate the prophethood or the akhlaq, which is things that Adam alayhi salam committed, or let's say Yunus alayhi salam committed and went into the belly of the whale. Obvious things that every aqil this is not like the Bible, where the Bible, a'udhu billah, which prophet is it? Dawood or which prophet was it who fornicated with two of his daughters, got
Look,
drunk.
what do they say about Lot?
I think it was down.
It is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah do not affirm these things. However, the Quran affirms some mistakes that do not negate the akhlaq and the mission of the Anbiya, and they know that. So what do? What do the tafsir say? I read Makaram al-Shirazi's tafsir about the mistakes of Anbiya. You know what he calls it? Tark al-awla. What do you translate it? It's basically it's not a mistake. He did not tark al-awla.
They left what was better, but they didn't do anything wrong. They just did the less preferable action.
The less preferable action. You left what is better. Tark al-awla. Look, this is really mental gymnastics. Yeah, I'm not using it like right people who use it, against every solid Muslim answer. No, this is actual mental gymnastics because the Quran is against it. And anyway, maybe in a future show, we can have a whole jalasat about why they have to do these things, why the scholars had to believe in tahrif, had to push the belief in tahrif, and all these things, because the Quran is not on their side on all these matters. Infallibility of the prophets, calling on to other than Allah, the attributes of Allah that they dislike. Oh, we have to talk about that as well. Yeah, the Sayyid Ali guy, Sheikh Suduk guy. Yeah.
You know what's beautiful, Akhi, is even with all the fabrications they have attributed to their imams, they're mostly lies. With all the nonsense, with all the fake reports, with all the syllogisms. SubhanAllah, haqq will always find a way through their batil. And this happened when they got that sheikh on their show. I'm going to share my screen here, inshallah, to show the report. He shared a report that is attributed to Musa al-Kadhim, rahimahullah, where basically a man comes to him, al-Ja'fari. He comes to him and tells him, "Oh, son of the Prophet of Allah, what do you say regarding the Quran? For the people, have disagreed a lot in its nature." And some people said that it was created. And some said it wasn't created. So Musa al-Kadhim, their imam, says, "I do not say in the Quran what they have said. Rather, I say it is the word of Allah."
Allahu Akbar. Brother.
Right? And this is exactly what we are saying, Ahl Sunnah. Exactly.
Abbas, if you just allow me just 1 minute, because you mentioned this narration. Look what I have here. عن جعفر بن Muhammad, on the authority of Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, and Abihi, on the authority of his father Muhammad al-Baqir, and Ali ibn al-Hussein, on the authority of Ali ibn al-Hussein, who is Zain al-Abidin, alayhim as-salam, قال في القرآن, he said with regards to the Quran, ليس بخالق ولا مخلوق ولكنه كلام الله عز وجل. The translation is, it has no creator, and it is not the creation, but it is the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal. And guess what is this narrated? I don't want to get into now, that might be for a future session. There is some of these narrations are in their books as well, where their imams approve exactly the Sunni belief. But I leave it to this reference, which what I just read is in Sharh Usul I'tiqad of Ahl Sunnah by Imam Al-Lalakai. And please, Abu Abbas, I leave it to you to explain to the people, to all those people who think Ahl Sunnah do not take the deen from Ahl Bayt. What is Sharh Aqidah Ahl Sunnah by Imam Al-Lalakai to us, Ahl Sunnah? Is it not one of our most ancient books of usul when it comes to our beliefs, when it comes to our beliefs of the laymen and the scholars, and we take our belief with regards of the sifat of Allah from who? From Abu Huraira, from Muawiyah, from Yazid? Or was it just a chain of Ahlul Bayt, Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, those in our books? Please, if you just explain just the reference that I've given, what it is to us.
شرح أصول السنة أو اعتقاد السنة by Lakalai, is that what you're asking about?
Yes.
It's a great book. The benefit in it lies in his comprehensive gathering or compilation of the quotes from our Salaf, right? So it's like a big database of most opinions or sayings, that theological sayings that were held by our scholars. I'm not very familiar with the book, to be honest. I have a general knowledge of the book.
No, the point is, it is one of the old books of Aqidah. And our Salaf are those who are mentioned. They're included in our Salaf, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt.
Oh, definitely. I actually wrote a recent a paper that got published on 12shia.net. I'd actually advise everyone to go read it. I basically addressed the issue, was Bukhari a Nasibi? And in the paper, I mean, it's a long paper, I'm not going to go into details, but in the paper I show that Bukhari actually transmits in his Sahih through more than 10 transmitters from Ahlul Bayt. Sometimes he mentions, hundreds of reports, like Ibn Abbas, for example. He has tens of reports through Ibn Abbas, like a big chunk of it. Nevertheless, I have another report I wanted to share that defeats their whole case, and their sheikh mentioned it, and this is what was weird. Yani, they got this sheikh who spoke in Arabic, and he shared reports that sort of sealed the matter. So this is an example of, and everyone recommended that they read Kitab al-Tawheed by Ibn Babuya. طيب, here is Bihal Anwar, Shia online library, so they don't say I'm making this up. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, perfectly.
Please zoom in.
Yeah. Okay, Kitab al-Tawheed by Ibn Babuya. Abdul Malik bin A'yan, by the way, who Bukhari includes in his Sahih. This is a Rafidi transmitter that Imam Bukhari, and several of our scholars in Hadith, they actually do transmit reports through him. And it shows how objective we are. But nevertheless, he goes to Ja'far al-Sadiq and he tells him, oh, son of the Prophet of Allah, the people have disagreed in the Qur'an, and some people claim that it is not created, and others claim that it is created. And so Ja'far responded saying, the Qur'an is the speech of Allah. It has a starting point, it's not eternal, and it is not created. And it is not eternal with Allah. طيب, he just affirmed the madhab of Ahl Sunnah, because their whole madhab, their whole video is based on a straw man they're presenting.
That was taqiyya. The Mossad and the MI5 and the CIA and all those CCTV cameras, they were installed in Ja'far's house. So he turned into Salafi mode, dude. For a second. Oh,
maybe he knows.
Trust me. They will come up with some next level excuse. Or as the scholars say, the Rafida are akhbariya among themselves, accept everything they like, what their desires like, narrations about tatbir, about khurafat and bid'ah, and they become usuliyun with their mukhalifin.
Definitely.
Akhbariya with themselves and usuliya with their mukhalifin. Suddenly they start weakening things, and suddenly taqiyya. There's always a gateway, escape door for them.
And subhanallah, like these reports, and I don't know like if they did it on purpose or they're genuinely not the brightest people in the world, but these reports really destroy the case that the Quran is created. Like the Imam explicitly says the Quran is not created and it is not eternal. And then they come to us with their happy syllogisms from the Mu'tazila, their daddies, and they're so happy that they have their own reports that go against this. So I don't know what is going on over here. Is there a technical issue?
They brought this French estate agent, lawyer, or bad salesman, or whatever the guy is, who comes with a straight face, and says that the Quran you guys have, according to your Sunni belief, to us it's an icon, and to you Sunnis it's really an idol. And then comes that Sayyid Ali dude who doesn't understand nothing. He neither can pronounce his own sheikh's name correctly. The main sheikh of his madhab, Sheikh Suduk, he calls him Sheikh Suduk, and nods and says, actually, that's true. The Sunnis. So they're worshipping actually the Quran then. And have you seen a clown show worse than this, where people come and argue for that Sunni? And listen, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, you are worshipping actually the Quran. Wallahi, you know what this is, akhi? This is jealousy, akhi. Wallahi, it's jealousy. It's the jealousy there for Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Ahlul Quran. Hafizin of the Quran, masters of the Quran. Now they're being accused of being worshipping the Quran, a'udhu billah. But anyway, brother, you listened to it, you watched it. What do you say about the statement of this guy from Belgium?
Wallahi, sorry. Go ahead, sorry.
Who said that, because based on obviously what Shadi said, that since they believe the Quran is eternal. The speech of Allah is eternal. The speech of Allah is a sifa, is an attribute. So that makes the Quran eternal. So that is then an entity other than Allah, which is eternal. So that is God. So you're worshipping other than God. If you accept it or not. Ya ayyuhas sunni, ya ayyuhas sunni. That's the argument. What do you say about this?
Wallahi,
I just want to point out that this is they are really going out of their way to make takfir of the ummah. All right, now I'm not saying this is what all Shias do, but these guys on the show are really going out of their way by saying things like affirming ilm, all right, affirming that Allah has knowledge. That means that there are two separate entities. Saying that Allah has, I mean, specifically stuff like this. Specifically, things like the attribute of, actually I didn't even say that the attribute of kalam is qadim, but that specifically ilm, Allah having power, those things being eternal, that means you're worshiping separate entities. That's very problematic, especially when we find that stuff in the Quran. Just very, very quickly, let me share a screen here to is that fine? Can you guys see it?
Yep, we can see it.
All right. So here's one. Here's one verse that says, to him alone is attributed knowledge of the hour, and fruits emerge not from their coverings, nor does a female conceive or give birth except with his knowledge. وَلَا تَضَعُ إِلَّا بِعِلْمِهِ, and that's sufficient right there. And even when it comes to attributes that they might find more controversial, like this one, all right, about what the Jews said about the hands of Allah. The hand of Allah is chained are their hands, and cursed are they for what they say. Rather, both his hands are extended. Okay, بَلْ يَدَاهُ مَبْسُوطَتَانِ. Now, what's interesting about this, we were speaking about metaphorical versus, apparent, or what was the word? Or literal. Now, the term yadahu, again, what do the Jews say? They say the hand of Allah. All right, the hand of Allah. Specifically, they say the hand of Allah is chained. Allah responds, no, both his hands are extended. Both. What does this mean? Now, here's the issue, Shia. If you don't want to accept this, that's fine. If you don't want to accept this, that Allah has two hands, I'm not saying it's completely fine, but I'm saying you can't accuse us of shirk. You can't accuse us of shirk for following the Quran, for accepting what we find in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put words like this in the Quran, and then we accept them, and then we will be punished forever in hellfire for accepting what we find in the Quran. This is very, very strange, Yashi.
But Farid, you forgot that if you don't agree with Aristotle alayhi salam, you're gonna go to hell.
Actually, Farid, to comment on what you said, that was very beautiful. First of all, Allah Jazakallah khair, very beautiful, beautiful point, mashallah. But to add something to it, and I think you guys obviously are aware of it, and I hope some of the listeners who have studied these things, subhanAllah, doesn't it remind you of what the scholars say about the sifat deniers, rejectors, the mu'attila, that they have an issue with the very text zahir of the Quran, that they have an issue with the Quran. If it were in their hands, they would have wished, as the scholars say, that Allah never revealed stuff like that, because it causes them trouble. And here I want to comment on another thing that this Shady Shadi said. So this Shady Shadi said that, hey, these people are like Christians, because when I say to them, it hurts him. This guy is very sensitive. He's got this boyish face. Maybe that's why he's hiding. He's very sensitive by nature. So maybe that's why, because I always in reference, which is true what I'm saying. I'm not making this up. I can bring tons of evidences that they pray directly to the imams and not just tawassul. So because of that, he mentioned repeatedly that, they're actually like Christians. Look, they believe like Jews. Look at the hadith of Rasulullah. The Jewish rabbi said to him that Allah holds the earth on the or the planets, or the creation. I don't know the exact love on his fingers, and then Rasulullah smiled. Which anyway, there's ikhtilaf. I mean, at the very least, the Ash'aris don't affirm it in the Zahir. They, in fact, what I've studied is Ash'aris say Rasulullah was basically mocking them. That's one way, as far as I understood. Atharis affirmed the Zahir, and then he was taking the mick. He was mocking, and then this Shadi was saying, "Oh, look at his belief, like Yahud." Awalan, and this is a very important qaida, and all of us must understand this. Not everything Jews and Christians believe is wrong, is it? Not everything Jews and Christians believe in Moses. Jews and Christians believe in angels. Jews and Christians believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah. Yes, everything I mentioned, in a way or another, it is, what do you call it? There's some tahrif beliefs in it. Tahrif, I mean, in a distorted way. By the end of the day, if they believe in Abraham alayhi salam. So no, not everything that Christians and Jews do is wrong. You know what is wrong? I'm telling you what is wrong, Mr. Shadi. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, according to plenty of authentic hadith, just days before he died, guess what? He neither talked, as we know, we refuted already this qirtas, khurafat of you guys that you build your religion upon. He didn't talk about taqi and naqi. No word about taqi and naqi. No word about your 12 imam. No word about writing letters and throwing them in the well of Jamkaran and Qom, where some Iranian Zindiq 30 years ago had a dream and then said, built masjid at Jamkaran. No going into the Serdar, into the basement, like the other Hassan al-Qadri does his hobby, going into another Rafida, going to the basement of the 12 Imam in Samarra. No, he talked about none of these things. You know what he talked about? He cursed the people who have taken their mosques as their places of worship as mosques. He cursed the people. He cursed the Yahud and the Nasara. And your sect has revived everything that Islam came to uproot, to remove from its very roots. Is it saint worship, saint veneration, grave veneration, building huge structures over graves, praying directly to saints, i.e. imams, taking oaths in their names, doing nadhr in their names, doing dhabh, slaughtering in their names? This is what Rasulullah wants. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam had the issue with few days before his death. This is what he was and not the things that you mention and say, oh, they have Jewish beliefs, they have Christian beliefs. Khurafat, according to Muslims, khurafat, superstitions, bid'ah, is not everything Jews and Christians do. It is what our Sharia has not approved in what is from the religion. One more example, wailing as a form of worship. Wailing is a form of ritual for the dead. This is the hallmark of Jews. This is what the Jews do. And who else does it? This is what the Rafida are known for. Crying is not haram for the dead, but turning it into a form of worship, turning it into a ritual, annual ritual, writing letters to a non-born khurafi kid that doesn't exist, that is dalalat of the highest degree. And that resembles the Jews who write letters and throw it, put it between the wall. Although I have in defense of the Jews, they are much more aqil, they have much more brain. At least they write the letters and put it between the wall, and they don't throw it into a well where the mullahs in Iran laugh at the likes of you and your followers, who, wallahi, as I said, when I talk passionately, I was one of them. I was one follower of this religion. I wish all of them, especially the laymen, their best and guidance. But this is just an answer to those people who say, oh yeah, that resembles Jewish belief. It doesn't. First of all, it doesn't resemble Jewish belief. Second of all, not everything what Christians or Jews say is wrong. Those things that are dalalat and not approved in our religion, that is wrong. And this is exactly what is common in the Shia religion. They do many things that is not approved in our deen. Is there anything else, Akhi, that...
yeah,
brother?
I wanted to say something, if you don't mind.
Of course, Akhi.
I think we're almost near the end, right?
Yeah.
And before we believe, okay, we've defended our stance. I think we've affirmed it pretty well. I think we made a good case addressing whatever they said or accused our religion of. With that being said, I'd like to invite the viewer to actually reflect upon what they're suggesting. What they're suggesting is Allah is an abstract idea, an abstract essence. Obviously, they don't give him a place. They say he's not in this world or in the external universe. So he's in some abstract existence. This abstract being does not have has not eternally had the attribute of being able to talk, or to see, or to hear, or life, or knowledge, and or any other attribute we can mention, because they believe it's gonna become another eternal God along with Allah. And so what ends up is they end up worshiping statues, an abstract statue that exists in some abstract existence. And this is what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah from our scholars mentions. He says our God, and I think he says this in the intro of Madarij al-Salikin, which is an excellent book, by the way. In the intro, he says, our God is not an idol like the statue of the Jahmiyyah who cannot talk or hear or see. And he appeals to the ayah in the Qur'an. I'm going to screen share here, inshallah, where Ibrahim addresses his dad. I remember, Hassan, you mentioned Ibrahim, so I remember this. Where Allah says, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صِدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ يَا أَبَتِ لِمَ تَعْبُدُ مَا لَا يَسْمَعُ وَلَا يُبْصِرُ وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْكَ شَيْئًا. You know, Ibrahim asked his father, oh my father, why do you worship that which does not hear and does not see and will not benefit you at all? So Allah shows in the Quran that their gods not being able to talk and hear and see, in fact, is an argument against them. And so when they come to us and tell us, oh, Allah does not have the eternal attribute of being able to hear or sight or speech, wallahi, you're reducing Allah to an abstract statue. That's the reality of the matter. And I would invite them to evaluate these syllogisms and my take on it, and actually see the quotes I presented and show the academic dishonesty they've had in presenting our madhab, along with their presentation of weak reports, such as the hadith they quoted, and it's in Musnad Ahmad and some other books, where he basically says that, oh, look, this is a hadith they have that's authentic, that says that the Qur'an on the Day of Judgment will manifest as a pale man. And the ignorant person didn't know that this hadith is weak. It's exclusively transmitted through Bashir ibn Muhajir, who Ibn Hibban, Al-Bukhari, you know, and a bunch of other transmitters, they call him Munkar. Abu
They're
Hatim,
mutasahil themselves. Ibn Hibban and Albani are considered mutasahil, isn't it? And
well,
despite that,
apparently Albani, they claimed authenticated the hadith, but nevertheless, you actually go back to the hadith. Sheikh Albani, he's an honorable scholar. I love him, but he can make mistakes. Let's actually go back to the hadith. The hadith is exclusively transmitted through a weak transmitter, Bashir ibn Muhajir. Abu Hatim said, يُكْتَبُ حَدِيثُهُ وَلَا يُحْتَجُّ بِهِ. You know, his hadith cannot be relied upon when he solely transmits it. Al-Uqayli says he transmits reports that are not corroborated. Ibn Hibban says يُخْطِئُ كَثِيرًا. He makes a lot of mistakes. So the best case they have is they show weak reports. They misrepresent our madhab, and then they have these false syllogisms to prove their own madhab, and it's all nonsense. And then you look, the reports in their own books from their imams also refute their madhab. So I think we've made a pretty good case, and that's all I'm gonna have to say. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Here's a question. We have a question from a Shi'i, and you know, we have to give them a priority, right, guys?
Yalla, tfaddal.
Okay, so he says, answer this Sunni defense. In Qur'an, when it says everything will be destroyed except his face, does that mean that other parts you give to Allah, such as hand, feet, shins, will be destroyed? I could do this one if you guys want.
Yeah, you can go ahead, sure.
Okay, so in Arabic, we use sometimes the term face to refer to someone. So my dad always says this. If someone, this is, by the way, this is even in the colloquial tongue. It's not specific just for, you know, ancient Arabic. So my dad would say things like, this person isn't doing this لأن عاشق وجهي. He's not doing this because he loves my face, and by face he's referring to himself.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
SubhanAllah, we say it about eyebrows.
In this example,
Okay.
we can see that there is a bit of a metaphorical element, and why is that? Because the qarina is obviously no one will say yes, the rest of Allah is destroyed. That's impossible.
I give Farid way to shine because it was just recently when I read about this, and this brother, Shia brother or sister who asked this question, you see, he's innocent. If it's with a good intention, that it's an innocent question, and they have the right to ask this question. But you see, this is what the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah say, that one of the main reasons, one of the asasi reasons that sects have been misguided is for the lack of Arabic knowledge. Now, somebody might say, yeah, but in Najaf they learn Arabic, Shias, some of them know Arabic. It's not about that. It's about that one sign of a misguided sect is that their scholars, their thaqafa, their learning centers are not known to have deep knowledge of the Arabic language. That's why sects like Qadianis exist, isn't it? Where the leader, where the Khalifa of the Muslims in the world who lives in Southeast London and can't speak Arabic. Or that's why you have the modern day Shia, the scholars, who are known for anything but being masters of Arabic. In fact, as the scholars admit, all the books that they even teach in the Hausa are mainly books that were written by Sunnis, books in the Arabic language. And this is, again, one of many examples that if you lack Arabic language, then you might do such blunders, you know. So, yes, in this incident, in this specific example, this is not meant as a literal sifat. That is why, no, there's no tanaqud. It doesn't mean here that everything else vanishes, perishes. And it would be enough to look up just at the tafsir to understand this.
I would like to, give some of the folks, some of the Shias on the chat a heart attack, as you like to say, Hassan. This is one of my, and alhamdulillah, this is something I've stumbled upon while going through Kitab al-Tawheed al-Saduq. Remember, this is one of the books that they say you guys should read. So, narration number 9 in Kitab, in Fasl Fitratullah, okay? Narration number 9, we find it saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created, and by the way, this is, of course, very relevant to the issue of Sifat, and the original Shi'i belief. Now, inshallah, we'll have all the Bayat Al Ghadeer team trying to refute this stuff, and inshallah, have more. We'll enjoy the responses. All right, check it out. So this is a narration of Saduq from his father, from Sa'ad bin Abdullah al-Ash'ari, two of the main top Qummiyin, from Ibrahim bin Hashim al-Qummi, mashallah, yani one of the top muhaddithin of Shia history, from Muhammad bin Hussein bin Abi al-Khattab wa Yaqub bin Yazid, both are thiqat, from Ibn Abi Umair, who's a major thiqa, from Umar bin Udayna, who's a major thiqa, from Zurara, who's a major thiqa. Yani this is the golden chain, mashallah. It says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created the children of Adam, He brought from the back of Adam, the dhurriya of Adam, the offspring of Adam. And what He did was He showed them His creation, وَأَرَاهُمْ صُنْعَهُ. Okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَرَاهُمْ صُنْعَهُ, He showed them what He created. He showed them the creation. MashaAllah. Beautiful narration. Okay?
That was from Abu Huraira?
لا وين ايش اي ابو هريره يا اخي. It's from Zurara. Nothing, no issue with this narration. No issue with this narration.
Yep.
Now what is the issue? What I find fascinating, all right, is this same narration al-Kafi, okay, from Ali bin Ibrahim, from his father, from Ibn Abi Umair, from Umar bin Udayna, from Zurara. Okay, this is باب فطرة الخلق على التوحيد. Okay, exact same narration, exact same words. Allah
more to the camera. Bring the book more.
Right.
More. Go back with the book. Go back.
Okay.
Good. That was good.
Okay. Yeah. Screenshot that, guys. Yeah. So it says, okay, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, أخرج من ظهر آدم ذريته. It goes on. Instead of saying وَأَرَاهُمْ صُنْعَهُ, it says وَأَرَاهُمْ نفسه.
Tahrif.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them himself.
Allah.
All right? Allah
Allah.
Akbar.
So what are you
And
saying?
now,
Are you saying that al-Saduq could have changed the word in the hadith?
A'udhu billah.
Ana, I don't say. Ana, I don't say. I don't say this stuff, akhi. You know me, I don't accuse people. But who says this? Al-Allama al-Tabtabai, mashallah. This is bad. This is, you won't find this stuff elsewhere. This is live exclusive. Habibi, this is exclusive quality stuff. All right. He says, okay, وقد روي الحديث في المعاني بالسند بعينه عن زرارة عن أبي جعفر عليه السلام. This same narration was narrated from Zurara from Abi Ja'far إلا أنه قال فعرفهم وأراهم صنعه. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them his creation instead of saying فعرفهم وأراهم نفسه. Okay, so instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing them himself, he showed them the creation. And then he says ولعله من تغيير اللفظ. Okay, قصدا للنقل بمعنى زعما أن ظاهر اللفظ يوهم التجسيم أو التجسم. Okay, so he says that this word was changed in order to change the meaning, okay, because the apparent meaning is tajsim.
Subhanallah.
So this is not, I'm not saying this, this is Al-Tabtabai saying this, one of the best mufassirin of Qur'an.
Let them refute this, akhi.
Let them refute this. And again, remember, Hassan, what you said. You said that all the people of Qum were mujassima except for Ibn Balawai.
No, be careful, akhi.
Sorry, you're quoting Sharif al-Murtada.
I quoted Sharif al-Murtada, the holy priest. That's not me. I quoted.
This is Tawheed al-Saduq. Saduq, he did quite a job when it came to manipulating some narrations that he didn't like. And I have more, alhamdulillah. I have 10 of these, by the way. I have 10 narrations, okay, about Tawheed that have changed in meaning due to Saduq, mashallah. He did quite a job.
He's lying for the madhab, he's lying for the madhab.
Brothers, because we don't want to make it too long, and we are talking about dishonesty here and about cheating and trickery, let's quickly all together, tag team, let's comment on something quick. Let's do it quick. Shadi, he commented on my video refutation of that super miskeen. I don't know what to say about that one, you know. That one is, you know, I don't even know what his role is. I don't know what Sayyid Ali's role is in those videos. Doesn't know Arabic. All right, not knowing Arabic, don't need to know Arabic. Okay, no problem. Called Sheikh Saduq, yeah, Suduk. He calls him Sheikh Suduk. And call Mu'tazila. Okay, طيب, you can't say Ain. You can't say Mu'tazila. No problem. Mutazila. Yeah, in English you say
No. He didn't say that.
No, I didn't say he said it. I said it's written in English, Mutazila. At least say Mutazila. What does he say? Mutazila. Mutazila.
He didn't say Mutazalla.
What is it? Say it to me. What is it?
Mutazalliya.
Mutazalliya, the mother of Godzilla.
By the way, Shadi's on, yeah. Shadi's on.
Very good. Okay, listen, Shadi.
Welcome him, يا أخي. Welcome him.
أهلا وسهلا. أهلا وسهلا خيي كيفك? I hope you're fine. So this, wallahi, I mean it, akhi. I swear I mean it. It's not about mocking. Ya Allah, akhi. Everything has its limits, isn't it? That Sayyid guy, I don't know what role he plays there. Is he like a mascot, you know, standing there? The one French Belgium guy, you know, who, by the way, we didn't comment on one joke he made. Well, I will comment on it now, but after this one point. This Shadi guy, he commented on my video refutation and said, you know, the Shadi, he has this manner, he has this style of, I call it the ostrich method. You put your head in the sand and just say, nothing, it's nothing. The house is the house of fire, yeah? And I think it's okay. They didn't refute nothing. So basically, I refuted nothing. Why? Listen, this is the reason. Because apparently in the show, remember, what was my refutation about? My refutation was about Sayyid Ali, this miskeen jahil, in English language. He brought a bunch of PDF. He brought narrations from Sahih Bukhari and other books. that are disturbing to him, to his intellect, to his mind, to his Rafidi intellect, that are disturbing, that are fabrications by Abu Huraira and Qub al-Ubur, yeah, Ka'b al-Ahbar, and so on and so forth. So then what did he do? He brought a narration by Abu Huraira in Sahih al-Bukhari, where it says that Allah at the end of the day, Judgment Day, will roll up the heavens and his hand and so on. Then I said that this Jahil doesn't know that this is a verse in the Quran, and then I quoted the verse in the Quran. And so I said, you must have a problem with the very text in the Quran. And you Jahmiyyah do have a problem with the text of the Quran, especially you Rafida, because you are not familiar with the Quran. So you thought that this is just a fabrication by Abu Huraira. So you said, A'udhu billah, astaghfirullah, fabrication. Abu Huraira, he was a Jew, he was an ex-Jew, hinting to what the scholars accuse him of, that he's what does he call it, undercover Jew. So what did this Shadi say? This Shadi then said, listen, you refuted nothing. Why? Because in our very show, we did mention that ayah. Ya miskeen. It doesn't matter if you mentioned that ayah. Your friend, your boss, Sayyid Ali, doesn't understand anything. You can't even recite it in his ear. This miskeen was fully on his trip. He was fully focused on what he was doing. If you are truthful, and if Sayyid Ali was truthful and you were truthful, then Sayyid Ali would have said, listen, I show you now some narrations from the books of the Sunnis, and keep in mind they interpreted that way. No, he didn't. He just brought the narration of Abu Huraira and said, and you look at this disturbing fabrication, because the whole point of him was to say that Sunnis, Abu Huraira, Bukhari, whatnot, fabricated this Tajsim anthropomorphistic in essence narrations. So it doesn't matter if you in your session there mentioned that verse. This guy had the other hadaf, and had the other objection, and he was rightfully exposed for that. And people are not stupid. Do not insult the intellect of Sunni Shias and everybody else watching these videos. Everybody else, instead, you understood it very well. That's what it said. This is one of the worst own goals for this Sayyid Ali. And then another.
Shadi's calling us out for a debate.
Yeah, we will comment on that. Let's finish our stuff before we forget.
All right.
Another thing, and the French guy, the Belgian guy, who said that the Quran of Ali was 3 times as big than the Quran, as thick as the Quran of Uthman radiallahu anhu. Of course, with the clause, with the excuse that it's just in commentary, yeah, which is. But then look how Allah exposes the people at their own mouths, hands, limbs. He said that the Quran of Ali is 3 times as big as the Quran of Uthman. A'udhu billah. Why? Because Ali included a commentary. Tayyib, here every Shia says, alhamdulillah, this guy didn't expose us fully. But then, what did he add? He said that this commentary of Ali is as important as the Wahy. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. As important as the Wahy, because it is a divine Wahy to them. That is why the scholars like Yasir al-Khabith and other of the scholars they're apologists when it comes to Tahrif al-Quran. Those scholars of them who do not admit to Tahrif al-Quran, what do they say? When we bring them narrations of Ja'far al-Sadiq, as what's his name? Kamal al-Haydari, as he admitted, they have over 1,000 narrations about Tahrif. Mutawatir in ma'na, in meaning. They have more narrations about Tahrif al-Quran, about the distortion of the Quran, the 12 verse, than they have narrations about Imama and Ghadeer Qum. Ghadeer Qum, in reality. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Yani, they have more narrations, over 1,000 narrations about Tahrif. And then they come, they go to Bukhari or Muslim, eat the paper. They look, ajizeen. People who are bankrupt, they have to go here and there, look for some shubha that we will also answer every single shubha that they might bring. 1 second, Akhi, before I forget my fault. Every single shubha we're going to answer if they bring from Tahrif from our books. What we have against you is your own scholar who says you have over 1,000 narration in support of Tahrif. So these people who have over 1,000 narrations in support of Tahrif, and then this French-Belgium guy who says that Uthman, Ali's book was 3 times as big as Uthman's because of the commentary. Do you know the hadith when Jafar al-Sadiq lies attributed to Jafar al-Sadiq? Jafar al-Sadiq constantly says in the narrations, هَكَذَا نَزَلَتْ هَكَذَا نَزَلَتْ هَكَذَا نَزَلَتْ. For example, someone reads a verse in front of Jafar al-Sadiq, lies attributed to him, and then Jafar al-Sadiq says, no, this is wrong. For example, kuntum, is it the verse?
كنتم خير أمة.
Do they believe in Tahrif in it? Yes. كنتم خير أمة.
No.
خرجت للناس. They say كنتم خير أئمة. They say you are the best imams that had been put forth in front of the people. So you know what the super apologist scholars say? They say, well, this is not tahrif of the lafz of the Quran, of the text of the Quran. This means, this is what the imam here means is هَكَذَا نَزَلَتْ. It's the divine tafsir. Huh? So it doesn't matter if this Belgium guy from Belgium, this salesman or whatever he is, estate agent, if he says that, yeah, well, the Quran is 3 times as big. Ali's Quran was 3 times as big because of the commentary. It is still tahrif. Why? Because he said it is equal on the level of the Quran, because he said it is as important as the Quran. And that is belief in tahrif. Because they believe, subhanAllah, look what a silly belief. Look what an insulting belief to Ali bin Abi Talib and to the Ahlul Bayt. Look how these people insult the Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam. How these people are the real nawasib, real nasiba, just like those who have exaggerated with Jesus of Nazareth. They are his real enemies, but they don't know. La yash'arun. They don't comprehend, they don't understand that by all the ghulu and by all the exaggeration, they have in reality insulted Jesus. And these people with all these weird, khurafi, superstitious, and zindiq heretical beliefs are insulting Ali bin Abi Talib, claiming that Ali had the divine from God tafsir in his hand, taken from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but is hiding it. And the Mahdi has a bunch of books in his rucksack. He has Al-Jafr Ahmar, he has the red Jafr, the right Jafr, he has this sword of all Anbiya, he has this ring, all khurafat, that Allah has never revealed any of these things that they claim. So this very Belgium guy, then he said, if these Sunnis correct you for your Arabic, I asked them then for one decent translation of the Quran, because all the translations are crap. Because I talk now a lot, and there's one last thing I want to mention is, I ask you both, you brothers, what kind of stupid, and apologies, I must use this word, what kind of stupid argument is this to say, you can't correct our Arabic for us, Rafida, being an embarrassment, especially our scholars and our maraja, the tajweed in Quran, because you Sunnis haven't provided a decent translation of the Quran according to me, this guy who, subhanAllah, looks like a Zionist Jew. All your translations are crap. By the way, crêpe in French is a very nice, it's like pancake, very nice pancake. So before
it's available in all places, Akhi.
So, what do you comment on this? All you have not a trans. So they have decent translations of the Quran with all the batiniya. Do they dare to translate tafsir al-Qummi? Forget about translation, tafsir. Chini was zaytun is Hasan and other khurafat. What, I mean, generally asking, you and Farid, I didn't even ask you earlier, or you didn't answer. What do you make of this if somebody says, yeah, well, you guys don't even have a decent translation of the Quran?
Mashallah, just a quick thing. Even Hassan Bukhari is on. Hi, Hassan.
Who the heck is Hassan Bukhari?
He's one of my fans. He's one of my fans, Akhi. Now all of them, they're all like the Bayat Al Ghadeer boys. They're online. They want to support Shadi.
All right, support Shadi. Okay.
Need some emotional support, man. I have no problem with that. You know, he was taken down a bit too harsh today.
No problem. Answer to this, brothers, because I need to address one more thing.
Go for it, Abu Abbas.
Ahl Sunnah haven't provided any decent translation of Quran. Your translations are all crap. He wants to say crap.
Subhanallah. What is there to say to this, Yani? Are you asking me?
No.
Ahl Sunnah don't have proper translations? Subhanallah.
All crap.
Yeah, the amount of translations we have is more than the amount of tafsirs they have in Arabic.
I said, look at this miskin. I don't know where they bought this miskin, where they digged him out. Aslan, translation of the Quran, any translation of the Quran by default, even the best translation, even let's say we bring somebody, a Sahabi, English-speaking Sahabi, somebody, we bring him from the past and with a time machine here, something completely abstract, let me give you. And he would translate the Quran. Nothing is like the original. This is in all languages in the world. This is in poetry, along with the Quran al-Karim. That is why Ahl Sunnah, masters of the Quran, that is why the young people of Ahl Sunnah, the kids in our madaris, recite the Quran better than your maraja and your hawzat, and learn and teach Arabic better than your maraja and your hawzat. Aslan, most of your maraja don't even open their mouth out of embarrassment for talking Arabic. And here's the last thing that I have to comment on. After now this, the guy talked about my Arabic. Akhi, wallahi, this guy is a jahil. Uqsimu billahi al-azim, this guy is a jahil. I tell you why. So he said to me that I correct him the whole time.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
How are you guys doing?
Marhaba.
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Share my screen. That's good. I hope it's not a full moon yet. I'm gonna share my screen for you so you guys can we can go through this document.
Hassan was making a point.
It seemed like you guys were having some issues with the syllogism, so we're gonna go through it together. And I want you guys to listen. We are all trying to find the truth. Just one second. You're speaking for 1 hour. Let me say something.
Wait. You're on my channel. You're on our channel.
We're all trying to look for the truth. Let us politely discuss the points that I had in my document.
Let him finish his point.
One second. Let me finish.
Shadi,
Habibi, let me make my point.
معلش. Just give Hassan a second.
I have to wait. You have to wait. Everybody has to wait. So this Shadi, this Jahil, what did he say? This Jahil.
What did you say? This Jahil?
This Jahil.
Oh, sorry, I can repeat that word. I'm sorry.
Can you let him finish? And then you can refute him.
What?
This Jahil.
Let me teach you. Listen. Okay.
Mute him. You know he doesn't let me talk. Mute him.
Hey, go on. We'll let him speak, inshallah, when you're done.
You can talk, you know, and you can call me Jahil.
I'm not calling you a Jahil. I'm just correcting your pronunciation.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to correct my pronunciation. You need to
go through the document.
Nevertheless,
with all due respect, let's go through the document together.
Okay, mute him. Let me finish my point because then he will go through his point. I need to finish my point, and he can do whatever he wants. There's nothing to correct about jahilun. If you need to teach anybody Arabic, it's the mute Sistani, the Buddha, the Rafidi Buddha of Najaf who doesn't say anything. You don't need to correct me. So anyway, he one more time, he mentioned about us correcting the Arabic. Although me and Abu Ismail did a very detailed video, we said it's not about not knowing Arabic. I do mistakes in Arabic, you guys, everybody. A grammarian in the Arabic language, a qari makes mistakes. A muqri, a master of the recitation of the Quran and all his ulum makes mistakes. It's not about that. It's about kawarith. It's about...
Thank you for that emotional speech. Can we get to the document now?
Why do you let off? Why do you let off?
I didn't. Shadi.
Okay, you guys invited me to the show. If I could please make my point.
Yeah, you have to wait till I finish and then it's your turn, man.
Go ahead.
Wait, man, we give you all the time. Let me finish. What's wrong with this kid? SubhanAllah. Wait. You're hiding behind your Christmas tree. Just wait behind the Christmas tree. Or don't wait.
I think it's a Nowruz tree, but go ahead.
Yeah, most likely. So this guy brought up the strawman again, that we say, oh, you guys, we are nitpicking, going after every Arabic mistake. No, I make plenty of mistakes. Everybody does. It's not about this. It's about one of your clown members, the Raza guy. He says, Turdi. He wants to talk about Aqidah, schools of thought, theology, calls Al-Maturidi Turdi. The other guy called Sheikh Saduq Suduk.
Okay, what's your point?
Let me finish and be quiet, man. Taqillah ya rajul, wait, have some sabr, man. You wait 1,200 years for your imam. You can't wait a few seconds till I finish? So, brothers and sisters, it is not about nitpicking. It's not about looking for mistakes. These people They make so many mistakes that we have the right to answer. How can you come and criticize the Aqidah of Imam Maturidi, Ya Raza, and you call him Turdi? This is not a small mistake. This is, you have no clue what you're talking about. هذا أولا. Then finally, and I'm going to make it very short because I'm annoyed of this guy. Because what happened then? Then he mentioned, he said, this Hassan Shimrani, he insults Persians. And I think that's something in the past as well. Oh, well, and I'm from Iran, I'm Persian. Those people who you do taqdees of. I do not insult Persians. Where did I ever insult Persians, my own people, especially in that recording? I would never do that. What I did rightfully was to say that, well, in your sect, tahfid, hifzul Qur'an, qira'ah, tajweed, has not a big place. And this is not my words. You're angry at me? Khamenei said that. Khamenei says that in his book. And Al-Ayari said that. Al-Ayari said, you guys are a joke in Arabic, in Najaf even, in the Arab land of Najaf. Let alone Qum.
Okay.
Then finally, last thing, and then I'm finished. He said that I read Qayama, Kadhab, liar, Rafidi. That's what a Rafidi is, a liar by nature. He said, I read Qayama. And then he said, there's not a H after her. Ya Miskeen. In Arabic, there's
no Qiyama.
You said Qayama.
Right, but go on.
I have the recording of you. Don't lie.
But go on.
You practice well on your qaf. It still sounds a little bit like a kaf, Miskeen. Anyway, he said one time Qayama, then Qiyama. And then the Miskeen said, Arabic has no H. At the end. Ya Miskeen. He said there is no H at the end. Ya Miskeen. In Arabic, there's no H at all. It's called Ha. We have the Ha and we have the Ha. And these are, we have Makharij. Both, and now I'm going to teach you, both are throat letters from the halq. The Ha is deeper. And you can't use, you miskeen, you can't use a recording from Taraweeh. If you would have known, you miskeen, you would know that scholars say do not use videos, audio recordings, most of them video recordings from YouTube, especially from Taraweeh, because the Qaris, despite being, of course, million times better than yours, they still make slight mistakes or don't pronounce things because Taraweeh is fast. So when you say in Arabic, Qiyam, in Tajweed, we have a qaida, we have a principle. You have to give every letter its haqq, even the kaf in the middle of a word. So for example, when you say thak is hams, a little bit ha comes out, thak. So you can't say qiyamah, the miskeen, because he speaks mostly Amir, dialect, Lebanese, so he thinks in dialect. He thinks he can say qiyamah, No, you have to pronounce.
Are you finished? Are you finished?
Pronounce the ha. If I would have said it wrong, ya miskeen, I would have said ya mah, a very deep ha. I didn't say very deep ha. And last but not least, and this is the karitha for you, Jahil. You said he insults Persians and he reads the Quran for like the Persians. He means his maraja, those mal'unin, those laughing stocks, those zanadiqa. Shall I show you how you zanadiqa read the Quran? I'm going to give you a taste. Allahu Akbar.
Are you done now? Can we go on?
I'm finished. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. That's what. Ya miskin, ya zindiq. May Allah give you what you deserve. Zindiq.
And may Allah guide you and give you paradise, inshallah. May Allah guide you, and may Allah guide you and give you paradise, and put you on the
why, brothers and sisters, this person, how many times he cursed Mu'minin Aisha?
How many times I've cursed Mu'minin Aisha? Okay.
So,
relax, your camera is shaking a little bit. Calm down. Hey, calm down. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Relax.
Put him on mute. Put him on mute.
Hassan, please.
Relax. 1 second.
Malish, bro.
Bro.
Let's get to the topic. This isn't gonna end.
I'm gonna go through the document. I'm not gonna cut
lines
Arabic because it wasn't correct. You put an H sound on the end of qiyam. Let me, according to the linguistics, when there's a
guys, please. Guys, let's get to the topic. Let's get to the topic, guys.
I'm gonna go on to the document.
Let me finish, and then they say salam alaikum, akhi. Allah is my witness, brother. Allah is my witness, brothers and sisters. This is all acting in the and have some testicles like Yasser Khabith, at least, you coward. Wallahi al-Azim, by the one who created me, may Allah curse me in this very moment and kill me right now if I lie. Wallahi al-Azim, he cursed al-Mu'minin Aisha multiple times, many times, accused of fahsh and all things, and this is just a good
I have a question for you. I have a question for you. May I speak? You've been speaking this whole time. May I speak?
How about
Don't interrupt
May I
me.
speak?
Allah is my witness that this person cursed Mu'minin Aisha from her private part to everything, just like the other ones do, all behind the screen. If this coward who's hiding behind his Nowruz tree or Christmas tree or whatever tree or Lebanese tree, he would come forward and show his face. Anyway, you are the last person. Go listen to Makarim al-Shirazi.
Are you done? We can discuss now. Listen, are you done so we can discuss? Can we discuss now or no? Are you gonna let me speak? Or are you just going
Hassan, let him speak, man. Let him speak.
Okay, thank you for that beautiful, amazing, emotional, heart-touching speech. We really appreciate you, Hassan. Thank you so much, Habibi. You've really disproven us with your superior Arabic skills. No, don't
Hassan, let him Hassan, let him speak. Let him speak.
Don't worry, it's coming. Don't worry. 1 second. All right. So I have a question for you. You said that we curse Aisha. I have a question. If I say to you, yeah, Hassan, I'm going to get a better friend than you. He is going to be loyal. He's going to be respectful. He's going to be around when I need him, and he's going to not talk behind my back. What am I implying about you? Am I not implying that you are disrespectful? Am I not implying that you are a back talker? Am I not implying that you are not a good friend? Yes or no?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily. So according to your logic, if I tell you I'm going to get a better friend than you, who is respectful, who is nice, who listens to me when I talk, you're saying that I am not implying the opposite things for you?
Because you could I tell you, first of all, your logic is not the standard. What this is implied even in normal speech, even in other languages. And I know your khabith, brothers and sisters. You know what his khabith intention is?
Don't interrupt me. Let me finish. I gave you time to speak. Anyways, the Qur'an says about Aisha, we are going to marry you. Wait, let me talk.
You want the answer?
Guys, both of you. Wait.
Hassan,
Shadi. Hassan, Hassan, give me a sec. We have to time this. No, Hassan.
So let me go through the document because you guys claimed you refuted the syllogism.
What are the syllogisms, Habibi? How about
guys, if we're gonna talk, please let's time this because we don't want people, jumping in all over the place. Is that fine with you guys?
That's fine. May I continue because he was speaking for a while?
Sure, but let's set a time because it's going crazy.
Okay, no problem.
How many minutes per person? How
I don't know. I just want to go through the arguments that you guys put up. You guys are trying to refute the syllogism.
Of course.
Okay.
But we want it to be somewhat orderly. So how about 3 minutes? 3 minutes, is that fine?
I don't think that's enough to go through the whole to go through the argument. So
it will go back and forth.
What happened with the cheap Aisha Shubha? He asked me a question.
Hassan, listen, I'm gonna share my screen with the document so we can go over it. Okay.
Guys, excuse me. It's gonna be 3 minutes back and forth. All right. I'm gonna time it right here, inshallah.
All right, no problem.
Please go ahead, Shadi.
Thank you so much. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys, so you guys can see my document.
All right. Let me start timing it as soon as you start sharing.
Okay.
Where's his beautiful face?
Bismillah.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get it up. The document here. Okay. You can start my time. You can start my time now. Okay. So we have here the argument that only God is eternal. Okay. Only God is eternal. Nothing besides God is eternal. You guys claim that the Qur'an is not created. The Qur'an is not created. If it's not created, therefore, it is eternal. And as we said before, nothing is eternal except God. So therefore, the Qur'an is God. So I have a question for you guys. Do you indeed claim that the Qur'an is not eternal? or sorry, do you guys indeed claim that the Quran is eternal, that the Quran was never created? If that's the case, then it's eternal. So how do you explain this syllogism? Go on. I'll give you guys my rest of my time.
All right.
Okay, are
Shadi,
we
I think you
supposed
came a bit
to
late,
answer
man,
that
but
question?
تفضل أبو العباس, all yours, man.
Okay, first of all, we don't claim the Quran is eternal. That's your interpretation of our stance. The point is, what you're claiming actually goes against the reports that your sheikh, the guy that spoke in Arabic, presented, where Musa al-Kadhim and Ja'far al-Sadiq both assert that the Quran is not created. At the same time, it is not eternal. It is muhdath. And these are the term muhdath. So you're presenting a false premise that everything that is muhdath is created. You need to prove that. Because we know in logic that everything that is created is hadith. This is known. However, anything that is muhdath is not necessarily created. So you're the one who has the burden of proof upon him to justify your premise. And please don't appeal to common sense. That's all I have to say.
Okay, are you done? Okay,
MashaAllah.
so he says that the Quran, he quoted a hadith from the Imam, or the Imam says that the Quran is muhdath, not makhluq. The meaning of makhluq here is, when you apply it to the Quran, the meaning is it is not fabricated. The Quran, you can't, meaning it's a linguistic word, you cannot apply it to the Quran. Anything which is eternal is not muhdath. Okay, so if we go back to the syllogism here, only God is eternal. Okay, so the second premise is the Quran is eternal, therefore the Quran is God. Do you guys say yes or no? Do you guys state the Quran is eternal? If you say it's not eternal, then it must have originated. It must have been muhdath. So I have a question for you. Is the Quran muhdath? Yes or no?
Okay, should I talk?
Please go for it.
Okay, Bismillah. You didn't really address the point I made up, and you basically deflected it with your claim that the Imam meant that it's not a fabrication. Well, we can go ask any person who's fluent in Arabic, and they can say otherwise, because that's the apparent meaning, and you have to provide actual evidence that was the Imam presented. You cannot merely deflect a point and interpret the hadith according to your own theology. We have two reports. Musa al-Kadhim said it's not created and is not eternal. And Ja'far al-Sadiq also says we don't adopt any of the stances. We believe that the Quran is muhdath and it is not created. So I will stick to what our scholars say and what your imams have said as well. And I'll just respond with that. And again, you are falling into a wrong generalization. In mantiq, we know that everything that is created is a muhdath. Yes, as a starting point. However, every muhdath is not necessarily created. You have not provided proof for this. Again, you're the one trying to make an argument. So the burden of proof is on you, ya habibi. That's all I have to say.
So as you can see, he didn't answer the question. I asked him clearly, is the Quran originated? Muhdath. He didn't answer the question.
It is.
Is the Quran muhdath? Is it originated? He didn't answer the question. He didn't say. He didn't say is the Quran eternal? Yes or no? He said no. The Quran is not eternal. Fine. If it's not eternal, then it is muhdath. It is originated. So he didn't answer that question. So next time you speak, I would like you to answer that question. According to the linguists, when you apply the word makhluq on kalam, it means mukhtalaq. Every single, look up any linguist you want. This is what the word means. Linguistically, when you apply it, it's even in the Quran as well. If you look at the Quran, the same word is used for fabrication. So that is why the Imam said muhdath غير مخلوق, because he was referring to the linguistic meaning. And number 3, we do have a narration where the Imam says that the Quran is created from from Al-Hadi alayhi salam, where he mentions that the Quran, that Allah is Al-Khaliq and everything besides him is makhluq. This is what the narration. So yes, we do indeed have a narration where it says the Quran is created, and we indeed have a narration where it says the Quran is muhdath and not fabricated. So I asked the question again, brother, is the Quran originated? Yes or no? If it is not originated, it is eternal. If it is eternal, it is not originated. You guys are not really following through with the argument. So go ahead, answer this question.
Just a very quick point, guys. Excuse me, guys. I would appreciate it if, when we, quote narrations, we would provide a screenshot, or at least not necessarily provide a screenshot, at least provide a reference, so that the rest of us could look it up, or the folks back at home could look it up. All right?
The hadith was in the video, my friend. You're refuting the video. Why didn't you look at the video fully when you're refuting us?
معلش حبيبي. Now the people who are watching,
you make an entire video without research.
Listen, bro. The folks now that are watching this video are not necessarily folks that have seen your other video, and they want to know now what you're quoting, right? So I don't think I'm asking something that's too much of you to just provide a reference. And this is not just for you; it's for Abu Abbas as well.
No problem. If you guys can if you guys don't believe me, you guys can simply look up the narration.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I mean,
it's in the video. I really don't want to go through and search it. It's there. It's a famous hadith. I'm not lying. You can look at the video.
Shadi, this is not. I'm not like picking on you or anything, man. I'm just saying that.
So, anyways, let's go back to the debate. So,
sure.
Abu Abbas,
go for it.
Is the Quran originated or is it eternal? Go ahead.
Okay, before I answer the question, I need to address some points you made. The best thing that can be said about the case of the reports I presented is that there's contradictory reports regarding the matter. And in that case, there's a qaida in hadith. If there's contradictory reports, then both of them collapse because they're contradictory. With that being said, you still have not provided evidence why makhluq in the report of Ja'far al-Sadiq and Musa al-Kawim means to lie. Again, you said, you can go to any other linguist and it's used in the Quran multiple times. Well, I'm going to challenge you over here and ask you to present to us, first of all, an example in the Quran where makhluq is used in that sense. This is one thing. And I'm also going to ask you to show why we should prefer your interpretation over the also other viable meaning of khalaqa, which can mean to originate or to create from nothing, as mentioned in Taj al-Arus in one of the most famous dictionaries in Arabic. So that's one thing. And you cannot just deflect it by asking me other questions, okay? To answer your question, I will say, just as Musa al-Kadhim said in the hadith, and just as our scholars say, that the Quran is muhdath, but it's not makhluq. It has a starting point because Allah spoke it to Jibreel alayhi salam, but that does not mean that it's not created. So no, the Quran is not eternal, and at least I would like you to admit that you misrepresented our stance on the matter. I think I've answered your question.
No, I did not misrepresent your stance on the matter. According to Ahl Sunnah, they say that the Quran is eternal. And now you're telling me that it's muhdath, it has a starting point. What are you talking about? Who's if something is eternal? Wait, let me finish. It's my time. Let me speak. If you say the Quran is eternal, then how can it have a starting point? You're saying, you're misrepresenting our case. Well, are you a Sunni or what? I don't get. Who are we debating here? You guys say you're Sunnis, that you're Salafis. Sorry, I'm not gonna say Salafi. I'm just gonna say Sunni. You guys say you're Sunnis. Now you're telling us the Quran is not eternal anymore. So let me tell you something then. Let me show you my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. This syllogism here then is accurate, because if only God is eternal, and you say the Quran is eternal, and then the third premise is true, that the Quran is God. I did not use the word created here in the syllogism. You talking about logic, yet you made a huge mistake. Where did I use the word created here? Do you see the word created here? I did not use the word created. So then how are you using the hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, where he says the Quran is muhdath ghayr makhluq? You cannot use it here. This is a valid syllogism. You have admitted that the Quran is indeed muhdath, not eternal. If Ahmed ibn Hanbal was here right now, he would be crying. He would be very upset with you, my friend. Shall we go to the second argument?
Are you done? Are you done, Shadi? You still got a minute and a half.
I need to respond. Okay.
No, I'm going to give it to Abu Abbas. Go ahead. You could take You could take the 3 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. You act like you're shocked that I bring up the word makhluq. You're the one inferring my stance, right? You say Ahl Sunnah believe the Quran is not makhluq, which is correct. I'm not denying that. Then from that, you yourself interpret our stance to say that the Quran is eternal. I've shown a quote from Ibn Taymiyyah, two quotes actually, two portions in his book, Al-Fatawa, Majmu' al-Fatawa by Ibn Taymiyyah, where he states, none of the Salaf, none of our predecessors claim that the speech of Allah is eternal. Okay? That's why I'm calling you out. You are basically interpolating my own theology and then attempting to hold me to the standard of your understanding. So, your syllogism is invalid. None of our early scholars actually claimed the Quran was eternal. And there's no need to play around with the facts and hide them. You know, that's all I'm saying. You know, it's nothing complicated. I'm not bringing stuff out of my pockets. You're the one who is assuming our stance is that the Quran is eternal because it is not created. And I've told you, just because something is muhdath does not necessarily mean that it is eternal. Okay? Just because something is muhdath does not mean that it is just because something is muhdath does not mean that it is created. Okay? And then you move on to say that, okay, you say it's not created, that means it's eternal. So that's what I'm saying. And you're tripping. So there's no need to make it seem like I'm making stuff up over here. That's all I have to say. And it's an invalid syllogism. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Shadi, just a quick question. Did you accept?
Okay, let me respond to that point, and then you can
accept that.
Let me respond to
from
your
Abu
point.
Akhi, just Shadi, do you accept that he? Do you accept what he quoted from Ibn Taymiyyah, or do you call that, or is that an inaccurate quote?
My answer to that, your question to what I'm about to say is actually irrelevant.
Okay.
So I'm going to go on. It's fine. If you want to leave Ibn Taymiyyah says that, it's fine. First of all, you contradicted yourself. You said that just because the Quran is muhdath doesn't mean it has to be created. Okay. So why don't you say it's muhdath and created?
Should I answer that?
Abu Abbas.
Yeah. Should I answer your question?
Just because the Quran is muhdath, it doesn't mean it's created. So you're saying that it is both or only one of them? That's my question to you. I'm not done with my speech, but I just want you to give me a quick answer.
No, we say it is muhdath and it is not created.
Why don't you say it's created?
Because that's our theology.
Okay, explain your theology to me. Why isn't it created?
Are you done with your time, Shadi?
Let him answer.
Well, I'll just say there's no evidence to show that it's created from the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet.
What do you mean? There's no evidence. Allah says in the Quran, right? Everything besides Him is created. Everything besides Allah is makhluq. Allah is al-Khaliq.
What are you referring to?
Khalaqa kulli shay.
Okay.
Allah says, I created everything. Okay.
Well,
is the
I
Quran
don't believe the text is created. That's my whole point. It
okay,
doesn't fall
Habibi,
under
is
the
the Quran
category.
Shay? Is it something? Yes. Allah says, I created everything. So there is evidence in the Quran where the Quran is created. So I have a question for you. If you say it's muhdath, then why don't you say it's created as well?
خلق كل شيء.
Well, let him finish. Tayyib, are you done?
I was saying it in a mocking, sarcastic way, but okay, go ahead.
Okay. There's a fallacy.
That's my first question. Let me continue. Let me continue with my my.
Oh, I thought you were done.
No, I was asking you a question. So let me one more. As Ahmed
guys,
excuse
me, guys, excuse me. Let's not do this any question within my time. Let's not do that because it's becoming messy. All right, Shadi, you got 3 minutes.
Okay. So he said that Ahl Sunnah doesn't believe that the speech of Allah is eternal anymore. Did Ahmed ibn Hanbal believe it? That the speech of Allah is eternal? Yes, he said the Quran is eternal. The Quran is the speech of Allah. So the syllogism here, by the way, you're wrong. The Sunnis do believe the Quran is eternal. You're quoting Ibn Taymiyyah incorrectly, but you're quoting him correctly, but that is not true. Ahl Sunnah do believe the Quran is eternal, but okay. Ahmed ibn Hanbal, who is the Imam of the Sunni Aqidah, he states that the Quran is eternal and it is the speech of Allah. So, my friend, I have a question for you. Does this?
Where's the quote?
Ahmed ibn Hanbal, he said this, that okay, if you don't believe the quote is correct, then then have the Sunnis, you guys gather around together, and you guys agree on what you believe. Because honestly, whenever you guys say, oh, I'm a Sunni, and we address a point, you say, well, you know what, I'm not a Sunni on this point anymore. That's what you
What's
guys
the
say.
reference? What's
So
the
I have a
reference,
question.
Shadi?
I have a question. If indeed Ahmed ibn Hanbal says that the Quran is eternal, by the way, there was a huge fitna. There was a huge fitna over Ahmed ibn Hanbal saying that the Quran is eternal. Now you guys are saying he never stated that. What are you talking about? It's a huge historical event. You're coming here and telling me now that Ahmed ibn Hanbal never said that? What's wrong with you? It is a very famous event. So I have a question. This syllogism applies to him. He says the Quran is eternal right here. Okay? Only God is eternal. This is the first premise. Therefore, I have a question. Does Ahmed ibn Hanbal believe that the Quran is God? That Allah sent himself down on earth? Okay, so that's my question for you. Please don't say, oh, we don't believe this anymore. Oh, okay, you don't believe the muhdath. You believe that it's muhdath, not makhluq. Okay, tell me why. Tell me why you don't believe it's not created. Go ahead.
All right.
All right, Bismillah. So he made several points I want to address. First of all, before you start assuming your code is right, let's bring it. Let's look at it in Arabic. Let's see the source. Let's see if it's actually an authentic source, first of all. And then we can, build our discussion on it. But you cannot just simply throw your code at us and then get mad when we ask you for evidence. That's point number one. Point number two, you actually mischaracterized the mihna, or the inquisition that happened during the time of Imam Ahmad. The inquisition revolved around the issue of whether the Quran was created or not. The eternal essence of the Quran, or the non-eternal essence, is an implication of that debate. But the actual matter was whether the Quran was created or not. And Ibn Hanbal simply asserted that it is not created, it's the word of Allah. Right? Again, you are falling into actually a fallacy. And it's called the no true Scotsman fallacy. And it's basically when I present to you an evidence, from one of our biggest scholars, who is Ibn Taymiyyah, and you say, oh, no, this is not the Sunni stance. This is not the right Sunni stance. Okay, you're saying I'm lying over here. At least I've presented a quote from the Sunni scholar, Ibn Taymiyyah, who says, None of the Sunni predecessors ever claimed that the speech of Allah, the actual text, is eternal in nature with Allah. I think this is a very big generalization. It's a big claim, and I'm quoting him from Majmu' al-Fatawa, and I showed it in my video. And you know what? I can screen share it right now, but it might take some time. So please get your facts straight. That's one thing. Second thing is, you're the one trying to make the argument that my belief regarding the Quran is polytheism, right? So you're the one who has the burden of proof, okay? You cannot try to make a case against me by asking me questions. Make your case, and let's evaluate your argument. And that's what you did in your previous video. You presented a bunch of syllogisms, and we showed the problems in them, and how you actually misrepresented the stance of Ahl Sunnah. And I actually got a quote, which now you're claiming is not representative of Ahl Sunnah. Okay. Make your case, and I can address it. The burden of proof is on you. I'm not the one making claims over here. You are. Do you get my point? Jazakallah khairan. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, brother. So they agree with the Shia that the Quran is muhdath, not makhluq. You guys agree with us on this. So thank you very much for the discussion. You guys say that the Quran is not eternal. That's what we were trying to prove, and you've shown that our stance is correct. So you didn't refute any. And by the way, the syllogism is indeed, in fact, absolutely valid. Okay, just because you disagree with the premise, this points still follow. The points do follow. You cannot reject the way the logic is in this syllogism, nor can you reject the premises. Only God is eternal. We all agree. But you just disagree with the second point. However, if you did agree with the second point, it would have followed. Not that the syllogism itself isn't valid. That's a difference there. Then he said, I misrepresented the mihna. He said it was about whether or not the Quran was created. That's what it was about. Then he said that Ahmed ibn Hanbal said, it is not created. Habibi, if something is not created, then it is eternal. If something is not created, if something did not have a starting point, it is not eternal. The definition of the word makhluk during the time of this inquisition was whether or not the Quran had a beginning or an end, not whether or not it was fabricated. You're taking another issue and putting it here. No, the inquisition was about whether or not the Quran had a starting point or not. Ahmed ibn Hanbal said himself, the Quran is not created. Therefore, he did indeed, in fact, affirm the belief that the Qur'an is eternal. Whether or not he knows that, that's another issue. Whether or not Ahmed knew that he was affirming the Qur'an is eternal, that's another issue. The point is, if you say the Qur'an never had a beginning, you are saying the Qur'an is eternal and is eternal with Allah. And that is all I wanted to state. Thank you for the discussion. I don't think we have anything
some
more to say.
questions, if you don't mind, and you asked me a bunch of questions.
Thank you guys very much for the discussion.
You know,
Where are you going, Shadi? Where are you going, Shadi?
I want to ask you some questions, bro.
Okay, but
stick around, man, just for a few minutes.
Actually,
I think it's unfair.
I'm not going
I think it's unfair for you to come in to interrogate us without us having a chance to ask you some questions.
That's all I wanted to
Now that-
argue. I've given you guys a lot of my time. I appreciate everything.
Just answer
May
someone.
Allah guide you guys to the right path. May Allah show you guys the right way. Shamrani Habibi Khosha Amadida. Welcome. Did I say it right?
Answer the questions, are you?
Did I say it right, Hassan? Allah. No, the people, listen, the people who are watching this can determine who is correct in their argumentation and who is incorrect. Let the people decide.
Right?
Let the people decide.
It's enough, akhi.
Anyways, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. God bless all of you. Salam.
Khusham Madidi. You have to learn the language of your religion much better.
SubhanAllah. Here's the thing. I wanted to ask him some questions and call him out on the essence of Allah, the knowledge of Allah and whatnot, but he immediately got off. I think he sensed that I was going to ask him some hard questions. Allahu Alam.
Because I need to leave, let me comment something quickly, and then I'm going to leave. Then you're going to I can have some little fun.
Bye, Shadi. You guys should check out the comments. The comments are quite fun.
So, akhi, this guy. And this is brothers and sisters must know them. Look, this guy is hiding between. By the way, when I said these things, obviously, it's the beautiful Lebanese flag. My whole point was to say that he's hiding behind it. You know, someone who, his people, you know, among them people who curse, threats against our families and whatnot. And then these are these type of people who hide between logos, you know, their whole lives. But anyway. When he came, you see, when I was explaining myself, that's why I wanted to mute him. And then you see, we gave him all the time. In fact, you guys made it so nice to him. It was so comfortable that he left when he exactly wanted.
Yeah.
Normally, people need to ask.
I want to push him on some questions, honestly. Like that was a cheap shot, but nevertheless.
You know, normally people ask, please, can you give me some more time? This was the other way around. Farid was saying, please stay. I was like, look how happy. Subhanallah, no, seriously. You need only wanted to give him a flower and some tea. Stay. He himself ran away, you know. And one thing is important. It is important because look, there's the type of Shia who we have encountered with the likes, for example, of.
But Hassan, do you mind? I wanted just to say something before because he made a point. I want to address it before it gets lost.
Do it.
شوف أبو العباس, just very quickly. The issue is that you do not understand the mihna of Ahmad bin Hanbal. That's the issue. That's the issue.
Yeah,
so I want to say something.
You didn't understand the mihna and كل شيء كل شيء خلق الله كل شيء. Yeah, and we don't know Arabic, and this miskin is an Arab. He's an Arab. He's a Lebanese. The thing is, I'm excusing.
They're Phoenician. They're not Arab. Nevertheless, he said something that shows he has no understanding of logic. He said, even though the second premise is invalid, the conclusion is valid. This is logic 101. I have an intro to logic book in English. For the conclusion of a syllogism to be valid, all its premises have to be valid and non-contested. Wallah Azim, the guy said himself, even though this is wrong, and you Sunnis agree with us on Shias, the conclusion, the syllogism is still right. I don't understand how something can be right and wrong at the same time. Either we believe the Qur'an is eternal or we don't. If we don't, as I coded and showed, then the syllogism is simply wrong. I understand he probably put hours into building his syllogism, but it's not my problem.
Abu Abbas, I tell you what, the syllogism is correct. Because he says so.
Exactly.
He says so. That's how did you see how he's like a little kid? You see his mentality. That's why I remember, what was it? One of the brothers, he had a Skype conversation with him, and he said he could hear him shouting at his own mother. He's like a little kid, you know. He's like a kid, you know. He gets, but the only thing he tries, and that's why he tried it on me. That's why I wish you guys. I don't know. Is it in your hands, Farid? You guys to mute
Well,
someone? I was in the middle of my.
no, you can unmute. Someone can unmute himself. Yeah, so.
So that's why he tried to, you see, brothers and sisters, to act very, very calm. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. Oh, I'm not going to again take it off in the name of Allah. I did it. He cursed Ummul Mu'mineen Aisha, Jesus. A'udhu billah. I don't want to use that word. These people, you know, don't think these are the average. I'm not saying every Shia is like that. Alhamdulillah, the whole point is, I would say that even most Shia laymen are not filled with hate and this kufri, shirki aqidah that these people hold. Most of them are, they're gullible followers. They don't even know this, this disaster that is hidden there behind the mask of that calls himself lovers and followers of Ahlul Bayt. They don't know what is behind this mask. The khurafat and dalalat in the name attributed to the Ahlul Bayt. Their own mouths, hands, limbs. What is this? This person in particular, more than once I've encountered in others, cursing left, right, and center. I'm not saying cursing me, insulting me. He might hate me, I might hate him, he might insult. No. On purpose, insulting Ummul Mu'mineen Aisha, Abu Bakr, Umar, everything that you hold there. So don't think that these people, when they come in and say, Assalamu alaikum, this is a. And one thing he didn't let me finish was that when this miskeen and jahil, you see, he wanted to crack my jahil. He recited a Quranic verse. I could hear how he was shaking. وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَ اللَّهُ وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ. He wants to say وَكُلُّ. He can't say kaf. And then he wants to correct my jahil. How I say jahil. Anyway, one thing I didn't finish to talk about was that he said to me, when I recited the Quran, that I recited like Persian people and I attack Persian. I'm Persian, I'm Iranian, I never attack Persian people. So it's like saying Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was anti-Arab because he was against the shirk and kufr of the Arabian Peninsula. No. Salman al-Farisi fought against the shirk and kufr of his people of his time. Doesn't make him an anti-Persian? What is this your logic? So being against your Maraja, who was Zanatika heretics, 5-star heretics, is not being anti-Persian. Mocking their incapability of saying a few sentences in Arabic, like the mute Sistani, the Buddha of Iraq, is not being anti-Persian, my friend. And then the worst thing this person said, the most nonsensical thing, is when he said in this last video, Shemrani attacks Persians and reads the Quran like Persians. I reminded him how he means Maraja. Should not use the word Persian. I'm myself from Iran. He mocks the Ayatollahs and reads them the Quran like the Ayatollahs. I told you, your Ayatollahs say Alhamdulillah. That's how they read. Awalan, Thaniyan ya miskin. Ajam, Aslan, Aajim, 2 letters among Aajim, non-Arabs, particularly Persians. Those who don't know Arabic in my country, 2 letters are difficult for them. Ain and Ha. So you miskin, by accusing me of having put a Ha in the Quran while reciting where there was no Ha, and that makes it a Persian recitation, doesn't make sense because Persians aslan can't recite Ha and Ain. This is just to prove that this guy is far away from any logic. Yeah, I mean, look, subhanAllah, you guys gave him all the time. If you ask me, subhanAllah, I don't think they would let us speak like this, Yani. Subhanallah. All the time. Have you seen how angry he got when you asked him for, subhanallah, you could see when you asked him for the evidence. This is historical fact. The mihna, everybody knows.
Abu Abbas, I just want to make sure if this is what happened, because it seems like this is what happened. This was his syllogism. Allah is eternal. The Quran is eternal. Therefore, the Quran is God. You said the Quran is not eternal. We never said this. The speech of Allah is eternal. He said, he completely ignoring your last point about the speech of Allah being eternal. He said, since the Quran is not eternal, then you agree with us, alhamdulillah.
Because that destroys him. That's why.
And this is the thing. The reality is they agree with us. if that's what their theology is. It's not we agree with them. This is
That's
what-
Ahsan. You see, it's the Shia mindset. He said that. One second.
This
One second.
point was completely ignored. This is what Abu al-Abbas's point is. The speech, the attribute of speech is eternal. And he made this clear several times, and yet Shadi completely ignored it and then claimed victory.
And at the end, it was this typical Shia mentality that, oh yeah, so you agree with our Imams. Ya Rajul, Aslan, we don't believe that your Imams have anything to do with you. I quoted earlier, remember guys, what did I quote earlier? Didn't I quote from Zainul Abidin? From Sharh al-Sunnah? Didn't I quote from Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam? From our books, that we take our Aqidah from Ahlul Bayt. So it's not that we agree with their Aqidah on this. At best for them is that they agree with our Salaf.
Yeah, and the thing is, they make it seem as if their stance is exclusive. I mean, I can adopt the Zaydi Aqidah, the Ibadi Aqidah, the Mu'tazili Aqidah, which asserts that the Qur'an is created and it is muhdath and is not eternal, without agreeing with the Shia. They make it seem like as if they win this argument, they win for Shi'ism, while in reality, this theology is not exclusive to Shi'ism. It's spanned by several other schools that are totally against Shi'ism. Ibadis, who are also like Mu'tazila and Sifat, they make takfir of Ali ibn Abi Talib. طيب? Yani, it's not like, oh, we proved the madhab of the Shia, hypothetically, so therefore, no, this is an opinion held by numerous different schools other than the Shia, outside the Imamiyya. So this whole, I don't understand why they're so eager to argue these points. It's like a big bubble that spans so many different schools. If you prove one school wrong, it does not mean the other one is right, because there's a bunch of other schools that are in the game as well. But yeah,
Allah yabarak fikum, guys. Allah yabarak fikum. MashaAllah, we've been on for quite a while. Jazakallah khairan, Abu al-Abbas. MashaAllah, you did quite a number on Shadi. Hassan, as always, enjoyable to have you on board. Any last words, guys, before we call it a night?
No, Akhi, I thank you, Akhi. Great host as usual. MashaAllah, barakallah fiqh.
I'd like to end it with something, if you don't mind.
I think Brother Abu Abbas and everybody else. Jazakumullah khair.
Yeah, come on.
I'd like to say something, Farid, if that's possible.
Tfadal, man, tfadal.
As I said in the beginning, it's a blessing from Allah that we Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, our theology is based on clear and explicit texts from the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Whatever the Messenger of Allah has taught us, we affirm it. And whatever matters the Messenger of Allah has not addressed, we do not consider these issues min usul ad-din. Thus, we find that none of our earliest predecessors ever addressed these issues. And alhamdulillah, anything we claim in usul ad-din can be justified in our scripture. On the other hand, they're the ones who have to resort to Aristotelian syllogisms and complex metaphysics that has nothing to do with Islam. It's based in Greek philosophy. They're the ones who have to resort to these kind of tactics to justify this theology. And really, we Ahl Sunnah, sometimes we get into debates and we get really excited. Sometimes we don't get the chance to actually reflect upon our own aqidah and say, alhamdulillah, really, the burden has been lifted upon us. Our scholars did so much hard work to ensure that Islam was preserved, that we're resting on the shoulders of giants. Look at them on the other hand. For them to explain their aqidah to a kid, they're going to have to show them syllogisms and complicated premises with conclusions that don't even follow. Us, you get a kid, you want to teach him Qur'an, what do? You teach them Arba'un al-Nawawiyya, hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, 40 hadith that basically span the usul al-din. You study Riyadh al-Salihin by Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah, usul al-din. Our kids memorize the Qur'an. You have texts like Aqidah al-Wasitiyya by Ibn Taymiyyah. What is Aqidah al-Wasitiyya by Ibn Taymiyyah? It's purely Qur'an. Open it and read it. He mentions an ayah or a hadith, mentions something, moves on to another ayah. It's a blessing from Allah that our Aqidah is grounded in the Qur'an and the Sunnah. And we really need to take time to reflect on that.
All right, guys. Yalla. Inshallah, we gotta wrap it up.
Yeah, jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu fikum. Allah yahfadhukum.
All right. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.